What's up everyone? How are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto's shadow clone got jealous and formed his own harem? If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comment. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. So let us start the story.
What's wrong? Weren't you going to kill me with one shot? Shouted a cacophony of voices. Wow, boss really outdone himself this time. There must be at least 1,000 of us in this clearing. Too bad, that means I won't get a chance to beat on that bastard Mizuki, since I'm pretty much the furthest from the bastard. His stupefied expression is really funny to watch though. With that thought, I climbed up the tree behind me to get a better view even as the other clones rushed in to beat the everlasting stuffing out of the idiot. Man, the view is great from up here. It's like I'm actually punching and kicking Mizuki myself. I swear I can see and hear even the tiniest details, like the way the bastard's ribs cracked slightly as one of the other clones punched hard enough to dispel himself. In fact, I can distinctly remember seeing a foot planting itself on Mizuki's back, even though I'm facing Mizuki from the front. Weird. Oh well, shelving that thought for later, I proceeded to enjoy the rest of the Mizuki's beating. I wish I had some ramen to go with this view. Yeah, a large bowl of pork ramen followed by a bowl of miso sounds great right now. Dazed by the thought of the divine deliciousness that is ramen, and possibly drooling a little. I almost missed it when the rest of the clones dispelled themselves after beating Mizuki bastard for a thoroughly enjoyable 15 minutes. Something snapped me out of it though, so I was paying complete attention as Iruka-sensei made boss close his eyes and swapped boss's goggles with his own Hite 8 and promised boss a bowl of ramen. God, I'm so damn jealous right now, though I'm not sure if it's because of the Hite 8 or the promise of ramen, probably both. As Iruka-sensei led boss to Ichiraku's, I wondered what I should do with myself. I don't feel like dispelling myself since I didn't actually do anything aside from watching boss and the gang pummel Mizuki bastard. Jumping down from the tree I was perched on, I absent-mindedly kicked Mizuki in the stomach while heading roughly towards the center of the village, still considering what to do. Barely paying any attention to the road, and yet still managing to avoid the attention of any of the patrolling ninja. Seriously, what's wrong with these people? I'm wearing bright orange and they still can't see me when I'm not even paying attention to dodging the patrols. Do I have to hold up a sign for them or what? I absent-mindedly caught a glimpse of myself in the glass display shelves of a clothing store, and immediately froze. At first I couldn't tell why though. I mean, sure, it's the same clothing store where boss bought our awesome jumpsuit, but that's nothing worth stopping over. So I stood there for around 5 minutes trying to figure out what made me stop, until I looked at my cheeks and stopped. Still dazed, I semi-consciously moved my hands into a ram seal and muttered, "Kai," trying to dispel the genjutsu like the academy taught, belatedly realizing that I might be dispelling myself too. Fortunately, my dumb-ass move didn't make my commit accidental suicide. Unfortunately, my cheeks remained the same, still missing the 3 whisker marks on each cheek I remember since forever. I'm guessing I was still kind of dazed at the moment since my next dumbass move was to pinch myself in cheeks. Fortunately, that apparently wasn't a hard enough hit to dispel me, but the pain convinced me that this isn't a dream. Although seriously, what kind of messed up dream would have boss dreaming about being a clone that's missing our whisker marks? Okay, calm down, this isn't the end of the world. I'm just a clone. Whatever caused this probably doesn't matter in the long run. Although now that I think about it, it might be a good idea to not look like boss while walking around tonight. It might get him in trouble or something. For the same reason, I don't want to henge into old man Hokage or Iruka-sensei either, though I definitely have to get boss to walk around as the Hokage as a prank sometime. Maybe I'll sneak a note into boss's apartment? Anyway, after racking my brain for a few more minutes, damn, I feel like a girl for standing in front of a mirror so long, kind of ironic considering what I'm about to do next. I decided to henge into Naruto. With my jumpsuit on, of course, everyone would assume boss was behind it if a naked blonde girl was walking around the village. Why'd I sense that I'm making some white-haired perverts very happy with that thought? Oddly enough, I'm missing my whisker marks as Naruto too, though I probably would have removed them anyway to differentiate me from boss. Following that thought, I untied my twin tails and retied my hair into a ponytail, noting absently that I look kind of like Ino, only without her bangs. Unfortunately, I realized that I would probably still be linked to boss do my jumpsuit, and with a sigh I modified the henge so that I'm wearing a collared yellow shirt and an orange skirt instead. Damn it, I loved that jumpsuit. At least I'm still wearing orange though. As an afterthought, I added a Hite 8 to my henge. Hey, if boss gets one, I get one too. We're basically the same person anyway, wearing it around my neck. Satisfied that I wouldn't get boss into trouble due to my appearance, I started towards boss's apartment. Huh. Wonder why there's a team of Enbo around boss's apartment tonight. Shouldn't they be failing to guard the forbidden scroll or something? Anyway, I snuck into boss's apartment without trouble. Seriously, these guys are the best of the best? I shudder to imagine how they'd catch enemy Nin trying to sneak by without wearing bright orange. Feels like it's about midnight right now. Boss probably won't wake even if an earthquake dropped the ceiling on him. With that thought, I proceeded boil a kettle of water and grabbed 4 packets of ramen from the cupboard. Gotta have your priorities straight, it is a dangerous world of ninja after all. While waiting the 3 minutes for the ramen to be done, instant my ass, I wrote a note to the effect of, "Hey boss, you should totally henge into the old man sometime and prank the village. Also, I ate all the ramen in your cupboard." Signed, Clone. Of course I wouldn't actually eat all the ramen, I'm not that evil, tempting though that thought may be. That's not stopping me from grabbing the empty ramen packets lying around and hiding the rest of the unopened ramen behind them though. If I can't prank myself, who can I prank? Hey, while enjoying the delicious holy food that is ramen, I absently noted that it tasted like 3 packets of pork ramen and 1 packet of miso ramen. What? I'm a connoisseur. I wondered about what I'm going to do next. I mean, how long do shadow clones last anyway? I've been walking around for hours now, and boss's previous clones never needed to last beyond 15 minutes or so. I kept thinking about that as I checked the fridge for something else to eat, although, do clones even need to eat? I mean, I'd eat ramen no matter what, but do I need to drink water and stuff? Absently tossing out the expired milk? Screw it, thinking is boss's job. I'll admit that's kind of ironic, considering boss's tendency to act without thinking like 90% of the time. I guess I'll clean the place up a bit while I'm here though. It's not like clones need sleep or anything, so I guess I can keep going the entire night. Why did that feel like it came out wrong somehow? Why the hell is this place so cluttered? I've been cleaning for 5 hours now and I'm still not done, I swear. Boss needs to tidy up once in a while. Well at least I'm almost done though, just need to move all the trash to the apartment dumpster. Too bad the dumpster felt like it was 5 miles away with all the damn trash I'm carrying. I'll just rest here for little, like for a year or so, while I recover the energy spent in the war on terrible trash. Hey, why are you lying next to the dumpster? A distinctly girlish voice shouted. Crap, what the hell self? You can sneak past Anbu like they're chumps but you can't sense fresh academy graduate? Okay, stay calm, pretend to be a girl, and get the hell out of Dodge as soon as possible. How do I pretend to be a girl? Crap. Hello? Are you ignoring me? That's rude you know, and now Ino's getting pissed, damn it. Screw it. I'll just mimic that weird girl in boss's class. Anyo, I'm terribly sorry, I was just resting for a bit and didn't notice you. I said while simultaneously standing up and pressing my forefingers together. It would be kind of funny how quickly Ino's expression morphed from righteous anger to WW if I wasn't so damn panicked right now. On the plus side, it seems that my panic is allowing me to think faster than normal. Okay. Now just feed her some crap about some urgent business and leave, self. Is it just me or do I have a damn good poker face now? I don't think any of my panic is showing at all, must be the henge I guess. Well, that's fine then, but what are you doing here anyway? In retrospect, I probably should have kept talking. Right now Ino probably thinks, A, I'm a cute girl she doesn't know, and thus her gossip senses are tingling, and B, if she keeps asking questions she'll probably get some really juicy gossip to spread around while working at her family's flower shop. Right now, damn it. I was just cleaning our apartment, but it's really far away so I had to lie down for a bit after I carried the trash here. Oh god, now she has that glint in her eyes. What the hell did I just say? Our apartment? Who do you live with? Is it a guy? Is he cute? I tuned out the rest of the rapid-fire barrage of probing questions in order to better focus on my panic. Okay, how the hell do I get myself out of this damn situation? Doesn't that weird girl faint all the time? Guess I'll try that then. Cue me falling backwards. Oh, hey, are you okay? Hello? Hello? Okay. The shaking my body bit isn't exactly helping me pretend to be unconscious here, Ino. I better go get someone. And with that, Ino left to get some help, or maybe another gossiper to help with her questioning. I'll give it a 50-50 chance of either. Phew, breathing a sigh of relief, I immediately flipped myself up and ran back towards the apartment. Boss is leaving right now. Doesn't it usually take longer than that for him to get ready? I guess since everything is organized now, it probably took less time for him to get dressed and have breakfast. That or he's just so excited to get his shinobi license picture taken that he skipped breakfast. Whatever, boss rushed past me without sparing me a second glance, meaning it's probably the latter. That means I missed his reaction to the note about all his ramen being eaten. Damn it me. What's the point of doing pranks if you aren't around to see the results? Amateur hour mistake man. Slipping into his apartment, I noted that the note was lying on the table where I left it, completely untouched. Guess boss rushed out right after getting dressed then, meaning I'd still have another chance to catch his response. Leaving that for later, it seems like I need to modify my henge again if I want to walk around the village, since I have a feeling pretending to be a girl is going to be troublesome, considering I've probably got Ino's sights on me. Screw it. Boss can deal with the fallout if I get caught wandering around the village. With that thought, I moved my hands into a ram seal and dispelled my henge. Knowing boss, he's probably going to spend at least 3 hours trying to decide on a look for the picture, so I guess I might as well go get some throwing practice to kill time. That in mind, I headed out from the apartment again, wandering around Konoha in search of an empty training ground, picking up a dozen dropped kunai and shuriken from the outskirts of occupied training grounds on the way, until I finally found an empty training ground. I believe it's training ground 14. Twirling in kunai from my equipment pouch absently, I mused that it feels identical to kunai I picked up from the training grounds. Odd, considering it's a shadow clone of a kunai rather than the real thing. Though I do wonder how useful shadow clone kunai would be, considering that some of boss's clones managed to dispel themselves from hitting Mizuki too hard. What if the kunai dispelled just from hitting its target? With that in mind, I threw the kunai towards a nearby post, watching its graceful arc as it flew towards the wooden post, burying itself a full 2 inches in the wood, and confirming its usefulness as a weapon. Satisfied with the investigation, I threw another kunai from my equipment pouch and watched as it flew in the exact same arc as my previous kunai, bouncing off the other kunai's ring with a faint ping sound. Okay, what the hell? I don't remember boss's aim being this good, and logically I shouldn't have that good an aim either. Taking out another kunai, just in case it's dumb luck, I threw and watched it bounce off the first kunai again. Well, on the bright side, it looks like I won't have to practice kunai throwing ever again. Reaching for a shuriken instead this time, I tossed it at the embedded kunai and gave it a deadpan stare as it bounced off the ring end of the kunai. Great, apparently being a clone gave me perfect aim or something. Well, there goes that idea of killing time. I guess I can always practice my ninjutsu though. Considering I've been walking around in a henge for most of my life, and that boss sucked at the bunshin, I decided to start with the kawarimi, or body replacement technique for you fancy nerds out there. Moving quickly through the 5 hand seals, I summoned a log from... Where the heck does the log come from anyway? While I'm perfectly capable of swapping with anything in sight with the kawarimi, the default usage always summons a log for some reason, even if it's an inappropriate place for a log to be. Sure, I guess a ninja academy would be a pretty typical place for a substitution log to be. But I distinctly remember boss using kawarimi in hot springs and bookstores before, and especially that one time in the Konoha library after painting all the walls orange. Hey, good times. No idea why they banned boss for life after that. Orange is a wonderful color. I guess it could always be a chakra construct like me, I suppose, but considering that the log is supposed to take hits intended to kill the target, it seems unlikely that it would be something that dispels from a heavy hit. I seem to vaguely recall Ruka-sensei lecturing about this actually. Something about the Book of Log? Well, if I don't remember it, it probably isn't important. Considering I remember more stuff about the boss's life than boss for some reason, since I actually remember some of Ruka-sensei's lectures that I think boss slept through. Admittedly, the major imports and exports of the 5 elemental countries are boring as hell. I'm almost falling asleep just remembering it. I mean, unless boss actually remembers that lecture too, in which case I wonder why he didn't sleep through all the lessons of the academy. Well, I guess I should try the Bunshin next. It would probably feel really odd for boss if he ended up as Hokage without knowing how to do an academy-level jutsu. What were the hand seals again? You'd think after all those hours boss put in practicing this it'd be second nature by now. Oh right. I think it was ram, snake, tiger. Gathering up some chakra, I moved slowly through the hand seals until, god damn it, why the hell is the clone dead looking? Seriously, how is that even possible? It's not like the basic Bunshin is solid or anything, so what could possibly cause them to be dead looking? Frustrated, I kicked at the clone, dispelling it as my foot passed through its face, and pratfalling as it passed through without being impeded. Oh, right, non-corporal. At least no one was around to see that though. Well, on the bright side, there's no possible way that I'm going to fail at a technique that I maintained for half my life. With that buoying thought, I moved quickly through the 3 hand seals for the technique, probably unnecessary at this point, since I remember the necessary chakra manipulation for the henge almost perfectly now, and transformed into my previous appearance. I should probably go find a mirror or something. I mean, it's basically impossible for me to fail this technique, but you know what they say about pride. So I ran north, recalling that there was a remarkably clear stream in that direction and stopped there in order to double-check my reflections. Ponytail, check. Yellow shirt, check. Orange, cheers, skirt, check. Looks pretty much perfect to me. Because really, what could possibly have gone wrong with the henge? I know this jutsu like the back of my hand, and not just because it is the back of my hand right now. I guess I deserve this, was my initial thought as I became surrounded by smoke and, more importantly, naked, the worst part being, this stream is pretty popular due to the clarity of its waters. In fact, I think I hear a faint, yes, off in the distance. With remarkable deliberateness, I slowly moved my hands into a ram seal and muttered, Kai. Yeah, I didn't think that would work either. Still stuck in the transformation, I panicked south. Read. My mind was going crap, 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 and my mouth was probably doing the same, and started searching for cover. Fortunately, before I can finalize my thoughts about committing suicide just to stop being stuck as a naked Naruto, my hanged clothes reappeared and at least 20 distinct memories of messing with a closet pervert slammed into my head. On the plus side, I'm not naked anymore. On the minus side, if boss ever has to deal with Ebisu again, I'm liable to turn into a naked Naruto no matter what I was doing at the time. Although this does explain why I can remember seeing that foot planted on Mizuki's back, it was probably the memory of a clone who kicked a bit too hard and dispelled himself. I wonder why I'm getting the memories of dispelled shadow clones though. But that's not important right now. What is important is that boss is probably going to make a dramatic speech to Konohamaru before heading off into the sunset or something. I know boss is going to do that because I'd totally do that in a similar situation. And if I don't hurry, boss would make it back to his apartment and read the note before I can get close enough to hear his response. Because of this, I rushed back towards boss's apartment without remembering to remove my henge or acting to avoid the notice of the people in the streets. Well, I made it before boss, that's good. Unfortunately, my cleaning the apartment earlier destroyed most of the hiding spots where I can easily observe his reaction. I mean seriously, a stack of dirty laundry taller than I am? I didn't even know boss owned that many clothes. I guess I can always hide under the bed though, but I'd only be able to hear his reaction rather than watch it from there. And their boss coming through, seriously, when we're not sneaking we're louder than the entire horde of Sasuke's fangirls combined. I guess just hearing it is better than being dispelled or something before the prank goes off. So I hurried under the bed and waited for his reaction. Footsteps, 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 sound of boss putting a kettle of water on the stove, for ramen, obviously. Now there's a person who has his priorities straight, rustle of paper on wood, hey, yeah, I've gotta do that sometime, followed by what? And frantic searching sounds, mainly of the cupboards being opened and closed, and, damn it, I'm never making a single shadow clone ever again. They're pure evil, I tell you, pure evil. It's becoming increasingly difficult to hold my laughter in at this point, until he's starting sobbing out. Ramen, why? I loved you so, why hast thou forsaken thee? And now I'm starting to feel bad. Ramen, hiccup sob, ramen. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. My mind made up. I carefully extricated myself from below the bed and made my way into the kitchen, where I saw Boss curled up in fetal position sobbing about ramen. Damn it, boss, calm down, it's not the end of the world. I mean, if all the ramen really was gone it would be, but even if all the ramen in boss's apartment were gone, it's not like he can't just buy more from the nearby convenience store. But, sob, the ramen, hiccup, it's all gone. It's all gone. And it looks like boss moved past depression into anger. I'd better calm him down fast or get the hell out of Dodge. Is it just me or is boss's eyes becoming redder and slitted? Okay, I'm starting to see visions of my death now, though on the bright side, some of those deaths involved ramen. If I don't calm boss down quickly, everyone's probably going to think the Kyuubi broke free of his seal of something. And it probably doesn't help that boss is standing on all fours like a wild beast either. Look boss, just calm down, the water's boiled. I can actually hear the whistling sound. It's getting pretty loud actually. Why don't you just calm down and I'll make you some ramen. Ramen? Okay. Boss's stare is getting really creepy now, like he's vowing to hold me in a cell and only feed me anti-ramen, shudder. Sushi, shudder. For the rest of my life if I'm lying or something. Okay, careful now, no sudden moves, don't want to be trapped eating anti-ramen for the rest of my life. Yes, ramen, I replied, moving slowly past boss to get to one of the cupboards. Opening it. Boss's stare gets really suspicious at this point. I would be too, considering boss just checked those cupboards. I carefully brushed aside the empty ramen packages to reveal the other, full, uneaten ramen packages behind the layer of camouflage. Okay, looks like he's starting to calm down. The killing intent is starting to lessen, though the boss's eyes are still red. Taking out 4 of the unopened packages I don't want to imagine what would happen if I accidentally ruined the ramen at this point in time, set them on the table and went to grab the bowl one used and washed yesterday, as well as the kettle of boiling water. With the most care I have ever treated ramen, and that's saying something, considering I'm a clone of Uzumaki Naruto, I opened the ramen packets, carefully putting the noodles, the contents of the spice packets, the dried vegetable packets, and the whatever the third packet is into the bowl. Equally carefully, one poured enough boiling water into the bowl to fill it almost to the brim. Phew, okay, you managed to set up the ramen, and you didn't damn yourself to a life of anti-ramen in the meantime, good job. So, how was your day? I asked boss, who still looked like he's ready to vow eternal vengeance if the ramen isn't the best thing he ever tasted. God, the next 3 minutes are going to be so freaking awkward. So yeah, my day was good too. Sure, I randomly turned naked and I'm pretty sure I was seen by a pervert, but I had 4 packets of ramen earlier today, so it's all good. Damn it, mouth, that was not the right thing to say. The killing intent is back now. Quick brain, find something to say before boss decides to make you eat sushi for the rest of your existence, which would probably be as long as boss could make it. So, learned any cool jutsus recently? I think you managed beat a special junin with a new technique? Okay, no longer getting visions of my death anymore, and boss's eyes are starting to return to normal too, and he's just looking slightly confused rather than murderous now. Komon, go sit down on the chair. I think the noodles are almost done. They better be done by now. This is probably the closest I will ever get to threatening ramen, but it's kind of an extreme situation right now. It feels like we spent 3 days trapped. Well, I was trapped anyway, in the kitchen. So boss slowly got up, still emitting some kind of aura, though fortunately not killing intent anyway, though it still screams, be freaking careful, to anyone feeling it. And he slowly sat down on the chair next to the bowl of ramen, and then slowly, very slowly, I'd say hesitantly if this wasn't boss and it wasn't ramen, picked up the pair of chopsticks I left in the bowl and started slurping the noodles. The noodles must have been as good as ramen always is, because as soon as boss fully registered the taste, so when about an entire packet is gone, this is ramen and he is boss after all. He let out a bellowing, "Yata," and proceeded to dig in with even more gusto, if that's even possible. Knowing that it's safe to move now, I refilled the kettle and put it on the stove again, grabbing another bowl, another pair of chopsticks, and another 4 packets of ramen from the still open cupboard, closing it after me. Okay boss, I know how delicious and tasty it is, but you should still slow down before you set the air on fire or something with how fast you're eating the noodles. I told him while setting my luggage down on the other side of the table. Whether he was listening to me or not, probably not, considering he's starting at the ramen like a lover believed to be dearly departed. He did slow down enough to start talking in between mouthfuls. So, why are you in my room, and who are you anyway? I have no idea how he did it, but boss somehow managed to render me speechless and thoughtless for at least 20 seconds with that statement. Boss, how the hell do you not recognize one of your clones? Well, aside from hair and eye color you don't look like me at all. For one, you're a girl. But I guess you could have been one of the harem no jutsu girls I created earlier? But you don't have any whisker marks, and you're fully clothed, not to mention that I don't remember leaving any clones walking around. Huh, well thought out and logical. Who are you and what have you done with boss? Who are you and what have you done with boss? A full 60 seconds must have passed while we gave each other deadpan stares, which was ended by the whistle of boiling water. After which we immediately broke off into laughter. Chuckling as I got up to make my precious, hiss. Wow, I have no idea where that came from, ramen. The atmosphere became even more relaxed and we spent the 3 minutes waiting for my ramen to be done in comfortable silence. Anyway, I was one of the clones you summoned to beat up Mizuki the other day. Boss was awesome by the way, since I didn't actually do anything, too far back, I just hopped into a tree and watched. Which is probably why you don't remember leaving me to walk around. I said between bites of ramen. So you just hung out the entire time? I didn't know shadow clones lasted that long. I shrugged, me neither. Anyway, can I stay in your apartment until I dispel naturally? I don't think clones need sleep so you can keep the bed and I'll just stay up cleaning like last night or reading Academy Scroll or something. So that was you? I was wondering why something felt different. My response was a, sort of, well-deserved deadpan stare, considering it would be idiotic to miss the 5-foot-tall piles of trash and dirty laundry. We both know boss was joking though, so I continued. So, can I stay? I think I'm going to fix some of the broken pipes tonight. I think I saw something I can use for that when I was searching around for an empty training ground earlier. You didn't have to ask, you know. Considering you probably knew my response was gonna be yes, especially considering how you knew I wouldn't mind you eating reasonable amounts of ramen. Yeah, haha, sorry about that. I thought you'd notice the unopened ramen after a few minutes. I'll wash the dishes for you as an apology though. Though admittedly, I wasn't all that repentant, especially considering that I know, that he's already plotting to get me back for the prank later. After draining the last of the soup he left the bowl and chopsticks on the table. Saluting me with a, thanks, and see you tomorrow? I shrugged again. Unless I dispel randomly for some reason, I doubt it though, I feel like I'm full capacity, fuller, even, than when I was created, which is kinda odd. Yeah, I guess we'll have to find out why later, tomorrow though. Gee, night, and with that, he crawled into the bed, and, knowing boss, fell asleep immediately. You know boss, this is the kind of stuff that made everyone in class think you're a moron. Shut up you're basically me, so insulting me is like insulting yourself. I just shook my head, amused. Sure, keep telling yourself that, and if you said that to anyone else old man Hokage would probably have you committed. So are you going to help get me down or what? Huh, and I honestly thought he was hanging up there to be funny. Shouldn't you be able to get down on your own? I distinctly remember Iruka-sensei mentioning the rope escape technique at least 3 times or so. Boss mumbled something. Can you repeat that, boss? I couldn't quite catch that. I have an idea of what it is though, since I seem to recall boss sleeping through those lessons. I guess this means boss really can't remember stuff he slept through though. I said, I slept through those lessons, alright? Now get me down from here. Damn boss, if you're going to be touchy about that kind of thing maybe you should make sure the lesson really isn't relevant before dozing off. I shrugged before bringing my hands into the oddly familiar cross-shaped hand seal. Probably because I get the memory of boss using it from every shadow clone he makes, though I've never used it myself. And summoned a shadow clone, instructing it to kawari me with the boss before dispelling itself. Huh, that was odd. I started after the clone got boss down. What is? Boss asked absent-mindedly as he started gathering up the ninja wire he trapped himself in earlier. I shook my head slightly. It's just, the Kage Bunshin Jutsu is supposed to split my chakra evenly, right? And I even felt myself losing half of my reserves, but it returned instantly after my clone dispelled itself. Wonder why it's even classified as a kinjutsu due to its chakra cost if it returns itself fully after being cancelled. Because seriously, an infinitely spammable jutsu that creates fully capable copies of yourself as long as you meet the minimum chakra requirement? That's a seriously broken technique right there. Boss just gave a, heck if I know, gesture, putting the gathered wire back into the box they were originally kept in before stuffing it into the closet. I don't know about you, but I've always had to wait for a bit before my chakra replenished itself, not very long, mind you. Probably because of the damn fuzzball, but not instantly either. Weird, anyway, how did you manage to get yourself trapped like that anyway? I mean, how did you even manage to hold the wire up in the air like that anyway? There aren't even any hooks in bedroom. While I have a pretty good guess about why Boss was tossing about in his sleep hard enough to entangle himself, I have a feeling Boss wants to talk about it exactly as much as I do. Not at all, for those of you wondering. Who knows, maybe I'm just that awesome. Boss bragged with that fake smile of his, which never quite lights up his eyes, though I doubt anyone ever cared enough to check. It must have been really bad for Boss to act like that even about something only tangentially related. Deciding discretion to be the better part of valor, I changed the topic. So, tomorrow's team assignment, right? Who do you think you're going to get a Jonin-sensei? Boss shrugged, then grinned. A real one this time, who knows? It's probably going to be someone awesome though. I doubt they'll hand the last Uchiha, complete with finger quotes. Kinda hilarious to see Boss making that gesture with a grimace, anyone but the best. And considering everyone that's a Jonin knows about me, they'll probably stuff me with someone expected to be capable of subduing an out-of-control Biju. Boss rolled his eyes at this point. Seriously, what the hell is going on with the council's thought process? It took the freaking Yondaime sacrificing himself to stop the Kyuubi last time, and he was the awesomest Hokage ever, and therefore the most awesome ninja ever. If Boss ever does go completely wacko, their best bet would probably be to kiss their asses goodbye. If some random Jonin, even if she is one of the best, could stop the Kyuubi, the Yondaime would still be around right now. Damn it bad thoughts. Me and Boss, or was that Boss and I? Never did pay attention to Haruka-sensei during Japanese class. Both know the council is filled with idiots anyway. You know, I never did get the point of the whole class ranking thing. Only a complete idiot. I winked at Boss, and he growled at me. If a ninja would show everything he has, so the best ninja would pretty much definitely not be in the top of the class. I kept my face completely still as I ended the sentence, subtly hinting that Boss wasn't one of the best, and Boss gave me his best deadpan stare in reply. There's probably no helping it anyway. People see what they want to see. I doubt even Jonin would put in the actual effort in observing academy students and trying to gauge their true skills. Boss gave a minor shrug at this point. This way they'd at least get someone whose skills is a known quantity rather than anywhere from dead last to cage level. Boss puffing out his chest. I just smacked him in the back of the head as I headed out the bedroom to prepare breakfast. Sorry about the lack of the milk, but the only thing you had was expired, so I tossed it out yesterday. Considering Boss was wolfing down the toast and fried eggs, I doubt he heard me. But if Boss needed someone to pay attention to him as he talked, he probably would have became a mute. So I just continued speaking towards the sound of him demolishing his breakfast. You know, you should probably plant some vegetables in that garden of yours, or maybe some spices? I mean, I know you avoid vegetables like the plague, but considering you somehow managed to convince a chicken to live there, planting some would give it a farm-like vibe. I continued on that train of thought for about 5 minutes, stopping when Boss finished and washed the whole thing down with a glass of water. I think I was suggesting an expansion of a barn of milk cows and a stable for a farm horse at the time. Alright, watch out world, Uzumaki Naruto is coming at Cha. Boss shouted for the entire Fire Nation to hear. Well, at least I didn't pop due to burst eardrums, so that's a plus. So, what are you doing today? I think I'm going to practice throwing my kunai and stuff since it's likely pointless to practice ninjutsu without a teacher. Boss pouted, thankfully a lot quieter. For him, for anyone else it would probably be almost shouting. I shrugged. I get the feeling I'm going to be doing that a lot for some reason. I'll probably join you after I go drop by to visit the old man. Just summon and dispel a shadow clone when you find an empty training ground so I know where to go. And Boss goes straight into his thinking face. It's probably part of the many reasons that everyone thought he was an idiot back in the academy, since whenever he needed to think about something he makes it extremely obvious with that scrunched up face, and because he always keeps thinking past the immediate problem, it probably looked like he was slow on the uptake, taking his sweet time on even simple problems. Though it probably doesn't help that his solutions tends to be so outlandish and weak in the details that it generally seems like a hack job to anyone who doesn't know the ideas behind it. Huh, yeah okay, see you there then. Say hi for me. Boss muttered distractedly and shambled out of the apartment, still thinking about something. Note to self, be careful when joining boss, whatever he's thinking about is probably going to blow up in my face. Keeping that thought in my mind, I walked distractedly up to the dresser and absently polished Iruka-sensei's Hite 8 using a cloth left next to it probably for that exact purpose. It still feels kind of weird thinking about the Hite 8 as bosses, considering he's probably only worn it for all of an hour before leaving it there so it doesn't get scratched before the ceremony. Checking the time, I noted that it's almost 9, just after the old man's daily paperwork is delivered but about an hour before any non-urgent visitors would meet with him. Hey, he'd probably appreciate the distraction. With my goal in mind, I backflipped out of boss's window and landed softly into a handstand after a 540 degrees flip, grinning. Let it never be known that Uzumaki Naruto, or a clone thereof, is one to avoid theatrics. Righting myself, I headed towards the Hokage Tower at a brisk run. Allowing my instincts to guide my steps, I wondered about what I'm trying to accomplish by meeting with Old Man Hokage. I had the vague idea of getting him to sign off on a secondary identity for boss. Considering the fact that the Henge no Jutsu is an academy jutsu, I have a feeling this is, or should be, a common occurrence. Especially since boss could probably maintain several identities simultaneously thanks to his shadow clones. Unlike the hypothetical other ninja who would have to split their time between different identities. Besides, I have a feeling carrying around boss's shinobi ID isn't going to cut it if the village ninja ever tries to verify my identity. Thought they'd have to catch me first, huh? Excuse me, Chunin-san? Is the Hokage busy at the moment? I asked the desk Chunin. For some reason, most of the Chunin that work as an receptionist for the old man tend to treat boss somewhat civilly, read, as a person, if in somewhat annoying one, rather than a rabid dog, or fox, so my smile isn't as forced as it might have been. I have a feeling the old man had something to do with this, since the rare exceptions tend to disappear rather quickly from reception desk duty. Not really, except the paperwork. Came the reply, and a muttered, "Glad I'm not doing them," which probably wasn't intended for my ears. The doors are still locked at the moment though, so you might want to come back after 10. She added with an apologetic smile. Of course, the locks couldn't stop boss even if both of his hands were tied behind his back, but I have a feeling picking the locks in full view of everyone in the reception hall is somewhat of an faux pas. So I just walked slowly up to the doors, with a thanks towards the Chunin, summoned a shadow clone on the other side. Good thing boss practiced enough that I could do this seamlessly. I don't really feel like being skewered by over-enthusiastic Anbu guards today, and dispelled myself. You know, I really need to think my dumb-ass ideas through before I do something potentially suicidal. Fortunately, it seems my half of my chakra reserves rejoined my clone and my consciousness came with it, so I didn't really kill myself just to perform what's basically an half-assed imitation of a teleport technique. Good thing the Anbu guards, I think there's 4 in the ceiling and a couple more behind the potter plants. What's with ninjas and trying to hide from sight by hanging onto the ceiling anyway? That's basically the first place I would look. Were sufficiently well trained not to immediately attack me just because of my surprising appearance, giving me enough time to perform the glomp on the Hokage. Shame on you, Anbu guards, for not taking the hit for your Hokage. Though I'd probably manage to avoid them anyway. Hey old man, how are you doing? Is the paperwork getting you down? How's your grandson? Lose any more scrolls lately? I fired off a rapid barrage of questions while, accidentally, forcing some of the paperwork off his desk. The old man probably figured out who I am by now. Heck, he probably knew since the moment I entered the room. He isn't called the professor for nothing after all. But despite that, probably just to mess with his guards, or maybe me, he replied. Excuse me miss, who are you? Oh look, the Anbu are getting tense, finally overcoming the fact that their ward was attacked right before their eyes without them being able to do anything, and by an apparent stranger. Well, two can play at that game. What? You don't recognize me? I swooned, imitating to the best of my ability the appearance of a kicked puppy. Oh look, he's starting to crack. Slowly, with every appearance of being wounded by an expected blow, I gathered my hands into a ram seal and shouted, Kai. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Hell, I'd probably take being turned naked again over this. To my great surprise, and the old man's carefully hidden amusement, the technique did nothing to dispel my current henge. Seriously, why was boss even taught how to dispel genjutsu if it never works? So I sheepishly rubbed the back of my neck and asked, can you just take my word for it that I'm Naruto? I think I trapped myself in a henge. I don't know whether to laugh or cry about the fact that this kind of thing is probably exactly what everyone expects boss to do. Trapping himself inside a female henge probably screams Naruto to everyone that knows boss. Quirking his lips, the old man shot that idea down real quick. I'm terribly sorry, young lady, but we cannot simply believe you to be one of our ninja just because you're wearing the Konoha headband and claim to be one of our genin. Maybe if you have some sort of proof? An ID card perhaps? Damn old man, he must be getting me back for painting his face earlier. Never mind that I didn't do it. He knows that our ninja ID cards won't be passed out until the team placement ceremony. Heck, I bet he's the one that set it up that way. Wait, hang on, I can work with this. He obviously knows it's boss, or at least a clone of boss, so he'd probably sign off on a new ID card. Though I do hope he calms things down before his Anbu decides to take me into custody. Continuing to act sheepish, I moved to the front of the Hokage's desk before saying, well, that's kind of the problem. I don't have my ninja ID card, so I'm kind of hoping that you can sign off to have my picture taken for another one? I promise I won't misplace this one. All true, of course, though not exactly the truth. I do wonder what the Hokage would do with an extra genin that popped from literally nowhere though. Ah, I see, this kind of thing happens all the time, you know. Just ask the receptionist for the nin ID forms and hand it in to the cameraman. You can pick up your new ID with the new wave of genin at the academy tomorrow. And there he goes, calming everything down with that grandfatherly smile of his. Even if most of the tension was probably caused by him messing with me in front of his Anbu. At least the Anbu aren't staring at me like I'm a threat anymore though. Thanks, old man. Should I unlock the door on the way out? Boss says hi by the way. Suiting actions to words, I waved goodbye and turned to walk towards the door. Please do, and tell Naruto I'll be seeing him in a few days to give him his first mission. As I unlocked the door and walked out, ignoring the bemused looks sent my way by the people outside, I heard him quietly ordering his Anbu to pick up the paperwork, though it seems like he's accidentally misplaced some of the less important ones into the trash bin. After that, it took only half an hour for me to fill out the forms I obtained from the receptionist and get my picture taken. Somewhere in those 30 minutes I got the memories of a clone in Training Ground 57, which is rather close to Training Ground 14. I wonder if my cloned kunai are still there or if they dispelled with my original body. I mused that I can always check afterwards as I leisurely ran towards where boss found an empty training ground, keeping an eye out for any traps boss might have set to get back for the ramen thing. Doesn't look like there's any obviously disturbed spots where traps are made though, and I was almost all the way towards the training grounds before my ramen senses started tingling. What do you mean you don't have a ramen sense? What kind of human are you? Huh? Why would my ramen senses be tingling 5 miles away from Ichiraku's? Unfortunately distracted, boss's ambush of clones and ninja wire managed to hogtie me, taking extra care to bind my fingers so that I can't perform any hand seals. And there's boss now, smirking down at me. Are those carry-out boxes of Ichiraku ramen? Oh, that explains so much. I'd probably cry if I was actually trapped in this position right now. Let's see if I can get boss to cave by talking to him first though. Boss? I started hesitantly. Why'd you tie me up? I asked as innocently as I could. Which is very, considering that I learned from the best. Is that guilt I'm seeing in his eyes? Too bad it was buried by tempered resolve a moment later, but I have a chance anyway. Boss started, somewhat languidly. I'll let you know that I'm sorry about this. He sent an apologetic smile my way. But I can't just let you prank me into believing you ate all my ramen. Boss's face went through flashes of grief, anger, despair, and righteous satisfaction at this. Without getting you back, can I? Oh, this is tough. Apparently both his pride as a prankster and his love of ramen are involved in this. Good thing I can use the latter against him. And now, as I'm sure you're aware, I'm going to enjoy the divine food that is ramen while you, my dear, are bound and entirely helpless. Boss started cackling into villainous laughter at this point. You need to work on that laugh more. I know. It looks like Boss really put some effort into this. One of the clone ambush is currently sitting on me, and the other 4 are starting at me like wardens of an extremely dangerous criminal. I bet he has the same setup prepared in every direction I could approach from too, since I sensed the ramen at the center of the training ground before he moved here. I wonder how he managed to create a clone to inform me of the training grounds without also giving away the ambush though? Guess I'll ask him later. But boss, I whimpered as pitifully as I can. Would you really tarnish the sacred ramen by refusing to share its divinity, just to spite a fellow worshipper? Looks like he's cracking, better push a bit more. I'll do anything you want, just leave the ramen out of this. Guilt, empathetic pain, and resolves flashed through his face, though not burning regret of performing sacrilege against ramen. Curious. I'm missing something here. I'll repent my sins to ramen later, but know this, it was you who first brought ramen into this. It was you who falsely made me believe that ramen has forsaken me. Well, he's got me there. The theatric pointing is also nice, could do with a wooden staff of some sort in the other hand though. Quote. Boss also said something else, but it was too soft for me to catch entirely. I think I heard a you in there, but that's it. Though his eyes mellowed slightly before hardening up again. Looking back to yesterday, I have a feeling the unheard portion would be related to how there turned out to be ramen for him after all, so boss probably didn't intend to deprive me of ramen in the first place. That would explain how boss isn't worried about betraying ramen fairly nicely. Okay, operation. Repentance, let's go. I acknowledge my wrongs against you and ramen. And I am fully willing to perish to make this right, only, before I go, can you grant me one last request? Damn, I think I laid it on a bit too thick there. Boss actually looks worried. He'll get over it in a few seconds. What is it? He asked softly, moving closer. Still holding a box of ramen in each hand. I wonder how he managed to carry those boxes for 5 miles without spilling the broth from the bowls inside. Come closer, I said, equally softly. Silent, he did as I asked, bringing the noodles even closer. Having the complete attention of boss and his 5 clones, I stealthily created a shadow clone behind a convenient bush nearby, which would allow the clone to be in grabbing distance of one of the boxes of ramen if boss comes just a bit closer. Closer, Psyche, I yelled, causing boss to flinch back, though not so far as to spill the precious ramen, while my clone made a grab for one of the boxes, taking care not to cause boss to drop the other one by doing so. To buy my clone some extra time, I dispelled myself for a second time today, and used the split second of confusion jump back with the box of ramen, carefully keeping it level. To his credit, boss got what's going on fairly quickly, and starting laughing with me after a few bewildered seconds. So, was the one I caught your clone the whole time? Boss asked after we calmed down and started unpacking the ramen. With nothing to do, the other clones dispelled, and I can see wisps of smoke coming from all over the training ground, and got slammed with the memories of at least 100 dispelling clones. Wow, some of those ambush preparations were really thorough. Good thing I didn't get caught by one of the groups using blindfolds, that could have turned into a mess. Nope, I said brightly, breaking the disposable chopstick block into 2 chopsticks. You actually did catch me. How'd you do that, by the way? The clone you dispelled earlier didn't remember any plans to trap me at all. Boss rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. I didn't actually have any plans to catch you at first, which was why the clone I popped didn't remember any, but after popped him I realized that this means I know exactly where you're going to be doing in a bit, since you'll be heading here like you promised, and that's just too good of an opportunity to miss. I mean, how often would you get tactical data about the enemy is doing before she does it? He chuckled, so I sent a group of clones to Ichiraku's to get the bait, and you probably remember the traps from the rest of the clones. So boss being spontaneous actually overcame the natural information asymmetry inherent from the fact that I can recall everything his clones do. Why does that thought make me feel like Shino for some reason? Boss doesn't even really know the guy. I should probably work out some way to channel information to boss too though. One-way communication isn't nearly as useful as two-way after all. Maybe the old man would let boss peek at the forbidden scroll again to read up on the Cage Bunshin? So how'd your training go? Break any kunai? I asked between mouthfuls of ramen. Boss frowned slightly. Well, you know, it's the usual, my throws keep going every which way. I was lucky on the academy test that I managed to scrap by a pass on the throwing portion. Odd. Did any of your clones try practicing? Well, it seems my unexplained skill in throwing definitely wasn't passed to boss then. Yeah, but they did basically the same as I did. They're my clones after all. Why? Curiouser and curiouser. I guess my accuracy isn't because I'm a clone then. I shrugged. I'll show you after we finish the ramen. I think just seeing it would be faster than me trying to explain. Boss mirrored my gesture and started eating faster. I kept pace and we finished the bowls in silence. Whereupon a group of satisfied clones appeared to take the bowls back to Ichiraku's. I'm betting they're satisfied because they managed to convince Tucci or Ayame to give them some ramen. It probably would have been too much to ask for boss's clones to handle ramen without wanting any themselves. Though this explains why I didn't remember the ramen from any clone memories. Okay, boss, do you mind creating a clone? I asked as I guided boss towards one of the target posts. Have him stand off to the sides a little so he gets a clear view of what's going on. Boss complied, with a somewhat confused look in his eyes still. Taking 3 kunai out from my equipment pouch, I absently twirled one around for a bit before sending it at the post, with the 2 others following reminiscent of yesterday, both bouncing off the first with a faint, clink, sound. How? Was the clone's question after he recovered. Boss still looks kinda dazed. I just shrugged and gave a, heck if I know, gesture. I've been able to do that since the first time I threw anything. I thought it was because I was a clone or something, but apparently not. Since boss's other clones can't seem to do the same, I'm guessing that I'm doing something differently than the rest of you? Which means that boss can probably learn this just from mimicking how I threw, hence why I asked you to watch. Boss recovered in the middle of this, but seemed content to just listen along with the clone, so I instructed boss to try throwing some kunai like I did and asked the clone to dispel so I can compare the difference between my throws and boss's. You know, I've never really noticed before, but boss, you fidget a lot when throwing stuff. Why is that? The fidgeting becomes really obvious when I compare the clone memories of my throw. All 3 throws having one identical, smooth, movement. I've never noticed the sheer jitteriness of boss's throws since the slight shifts of his center of gravity was accompanied by a slight shift in the same direction of his point view. I suppose this isn't all that surprising, since this isn't the kind of thing that can be noticed by self-training. The village is making it rather difficult not to hate them. I must have let something of what I felt show face, because boss stopped making his scrunched up thinking face and asked me, "What's wrong?" Stopping my first instinct to give boss that overly wide smile of his and deny everything, as is his wont, I just shook my head clear of my darker thoughts and took a moment to meditate. It's fine, nothing that's worth worrying about right now. Let's get back to fixing your throws, nay? I said before boss could get too worked up about me randomly clamming up. While it's obvious boss would much rather pry whatever it is out of me, he knows that I don't want to talk about it, and so goes back into his thinking face again, this time shooting me worried glances once in a while. After watching the boss try to think for what felt like years, I started. You know, I have an idea of what it might be. Do you mind if I checked your pulse for a bit? Understandably confused by my tangent, boss just nodded an affirmative. Turns out, it's really easy to take another person's pulse if you don't have any of your own. Also, for some as physically fit as boss is, his resting heart rate is ridiculous. Nearly 100 beats per minute is not normal. But even accounting for the unavoidable tremors due to heartbeat, boss's aim shouldn't be this bad. Is it just me, or does boss look like he has 2 separate heartbeats? One originating from his chest, naturally, and another from his stomach. Oh, well, on the plus side, your crappy aim probably isn't your fault, boss. On the minus side, short of releasing the Kyuubi wholesale, I have no idea how to remove his interference from your movements. Boss just looked resigned, and glared at his stomach for a bit. Another thing to hate the Kyuubi over, I guess. Seeing how we've spent almost the entire day just to figure out that boss's aim is messed up beyond belief for reasons beyond his control, I decided to try to end the day on an up note. Come on boss. Let's go to Ichiraku's. Ayame told one of your clones that you can have a bowl on the house in early celebration of you getting into a genin team. That said, I half-dragged, half-led boss to Ichiraku's. The happy atmosphere of Ichiraku's soon revived boss's spirits, Mine too, since when I tried to refuse a bowl on account of me being just a clone, Ayame just forced a bowl into my hands since the other Naruto clones got some to eat too, so it isn't fair for you to not have any. 30 minutes and half as many bowls later, Boss and one waved goodbye to Tucci and Ayame and left for Boss's apartment. Whereupon Boss crawled into bed with a contented sigh, only to be dragged out of it again with a reminder by me to shower and brush his teeth first. That done, Boss rushed into bed with an affectionate, "Slave driver, why's the boss obeying the hired help?" shot in my direction. "Rise and shine, boss. It's morning," I chirped merrily as I leapt into Boss's bedroom through one of the windows. Boss's apartment is on the second floor, but hey, ninja, watching contentedly as Boss stretched to shake off the last of his sleepiness, I slipped my ninja ID, which I liberated from Iruka-sensei's desk during the night, into the hollow under one of the floorboards, where Boss keeps some of his sentimental items. Ruffling his hair fondly before he batted my hand away, I headed into the kitchen to prepare breakfast with the groceries I bought last night. 3 cheers for 24-hour supermarkets, one of the most vital pillars of any ninja village. "So are you going to be coming with me for the ceremony today?" Boss asked as he exited bathroom after his shower, absently throwing his dirty laundry towards the basket I placed for that purpose. Maybe I should move that closer to the bathroom door. Meh, at least Boss picked up the missed articles before stuffing them into the basket as well. Yeah, I'm supposed, with actual finger quotes, to be picking up my ID card with the graduating genin. The old man probably told Iruka-sensei to expect me, so it would be kinda odd if I didn't show. I responded as Boss dug into his breakfast. "How are you gonna introduce yourself to my classmates though? I doubt Naruto Uzumaki is going to go over well," Boss asked between mouthfuls of food. I winked at Boss, "That's for me to know and you to wonder. I'll give you a hint though, I'm going to use the name on my ninja ID card. Naruto Uzumaki? Because that's what I saw on it." Boss deadpanned. I just smirked. "Anyway, what are you going to do after that? I doubt meeting my team is gonna take the whole day." If only he knew. Hey, I chanced across the list containing the teams and Jonin-sensei while searching for my card. Hitaki Kakashi's lateness is almost more legendary than his skill as a shinobi. I shrugged. If you end up doing team exercises or something, I could always try to bug the old man into giving me clearance for some low-ranked solo missions. The money situation is probably going to be a little tight for a bit, since you're no longer applicable for the orphans fund now that you're a genin. I mean, sure, Boss has a nest egg saved up from spending thriftily all these years, except for the mandatory tithes to the Church of Ramen, of course. But no reason to tap into that if another option is available. Boss nodded, silently contemplative as he finished the rest of his breakfast, washing the whole thing down by draining the glass of milk in a single gulp. While washing the dishes, I watched Boss get dressed, subconsciously put on his goggles before remembering and replacing them with his. Still kind of weird to not think of it as Iruka-sensei's Hite 8. We walked leisurely towards the academy, ignoring the dirty looks cast in our direction with the ease of long practice. Admittedly, some of those looks were slightly puzzled as they glanced towards me, but before long those also changed to match the rest. Juggling a few kunai from my equipment pouch, I wondered absently if it's possible for me to create a shadow clone fast enough to catch a kunai I threw at something in midair. "Hey," Boss started, interrupting my reveries, "what are you gonna do when Iruka-sensei finds out that he doesn't have your ID card?" Smirking, I told Boss not to worry about it as we entered the classroom, waving at Iruka-sensei as we came in, who nodded in response, taking one of the tables near the back. As we watched the rest of the class funnel in, we got the academy fairly early, probably because Boss went to sleep earlier than usual last night. We were greeted by some curious looks, but the excitement of team assignments meant that none of their owners cared enough. That are taking the 10 extra steps to the corner where we were seated is too troublesome to inquire further, instead deciding to banter about the upcoming ceremony with their friends instead. Although that one weird girl, Hinata, stared noticeably longer than the others, before taking one of the other seats near the back of the room. "Alright, as I call your names, please get up to receive your ninja identification cards." Iruka-sensei started as the last of the stragglers got into their seats. First up, Aburame, Shino. I tuned out the rest, slouching onto the desk until Reka, Hikari, The unexpected name jolted some of the others to attention, and I caught some looks being shot my way. I just gave a smile and a wave to Iruka-sensei, who was holding my cloned and modified ID card forward, before holding out my hand like there's an invisible card in it. Then I dispelled the cloned ID card and created another shadow clone of it into my hand simultaneously, making it seem like I just summoned the original ID card into my hands somehow. I don't care what anyone says, that trick was totally worth spending half the night practicing for. After Iruka-sensei calmed the class down with that demon head jutsu of his, the rest of the cards were handed out uneventfully, punctuated by Boss trying to weasel out how I summoned my ID card in hushed whispers. I think Iruka-sensei gave a speech about the responsibilities of being genin now or something, but Boss's whispers were very distracting until Iruka-sensei interrupted his speech to use the demon head on him, after which we were a bit too unsettled to pay attention to Sensei's speech. Team 7 will be Uzumaki Naruto, Haruno Sakura. Boss gave the obligatory cheer at this point. No point giving away that he knew the team beforehand after all, and Uchiha Sasuke was the first thing I caught as I recovered. I tuned out the rest though, I already knew all the teams from my late-night escapade in the academy after all. Shortly after that, Iruka-sensei dismissed us for a lunch break, ordering the new genin to return in the afternoon to meet with the various jonin senseis. Boss's incessant questions on our way back to his apartment finally made me crack, so I rapped the back of his head twice. Once to make him stop, and another for him not figuring out at least part of it. You do remember that the ID card holding isn't the real one, right? This, I re-summoned the ID card for emphasis, is just a shadow clone of an ID card I created. You know, like the cloned kunai and shuriken I carry around in my equipment pouch. It took almost 2 hours for me to figure out how to clone just a minor object rather than having to create another entire shadow clone every time I wanted to make another copy of the card. In comparison, figuring out how to apply a partial change to the cloned card, namely the name and ninja ID number, I have the same one as Boss, was a cakewalk and only took a few minutes. This should be enough information for Boss to figure everything out. But that still doesn't explain how you did that. Boss shouted as we climbed the stairs to the apartment. I can't tell if he's joking or not though, so I just settled for hitting the back of his head again. If he really doesn't know, he'll just ask me later. So, Boss started as we entered his apartment. Why Hikari Rekka? I shrugged as I started preparing lunch, getting everything set up before creating a shadow clone to watch the food as they're cooking. Well, I kind of like the sound of Rekka no Hikari, you know. Light of the Inferno sounds like an awesome name to have. Boss nodded his agreement, of course. Actually giving the name as Rekka no Hikari would be kind of dumb, since my parents would have to be kind of messed up to name me that, so I took out the no. We spent some time in comfortable semi-silence, listening to the sounds of the vegetables frying merrily as my clone tried to avoid burning any of them, simultaneously avoiding any stray oil droplets. After a while I started again, of course. The original reason I picked Rekka, Lai Huo, Inferno, or Raging Fire, was because that feels like me, you know? Just like how fire can be extinguished in one spot only to come alight in another, I can do pretty much the same thing with my cage bunshin. I punctuated the point by dispelling myself, thereby taking the place of my clone working the frying pan, narrowly avoiding an errant oil droplet in the process. The Hikari, Guang, light, or shine bit is partially a reference to how that works, kind of like in high-speed teleportation technique, but manly because it sounds cool in conjunction. I added as I carried the dish of vegetables and a bowl of rice to the table, taking my chair again. Content to just watch as Boss dug into his meal with a slight grimace. I laid back on my chair across from him, letting out a satisfied sigh. So, I guess you'll be meeting with Old Man Hokage now? Since I'm guessing my team and I will probably be doing some team exercises together. Boss said as he finished off the last of the vegetables. A surprise, albeit a happy one. Nah, I figure I'll come with you to meet with your jonin sensei at least. And keep you from being bored waiting for him. It's not like I'm forbidden from entering the academy except for official business or anything, I said, shaking my head slightly. With that, I left a clone to take care of the dishes before we left for the academy at a moderately fast clip. Hey, what are you doing here? You're not one of the graduating genin, was my greeting courtesy of a pineapple-headed Shikamaru as Boss and I entered the classroom. Why did this trigger some kind of parallel world sense of déjà vu? No, but there's nothing stopping me from watching Naruto-kun over here meeting with his Jonin-sensei now, is there? I responded, with a slight shake of my head and ruffling boss's hair for emphasis. Troublesome, was his ever-eloquent reply. Taking the same seats as we did earlier today, Boss and I watched as Yuhi Kurenai and Sarutobi Asuma took the members of Team 8 and Team 10 respectively. Well, we also saw the other Jonin-sensei take the rest of the class as well, but only the members of Team 8 and 10 stood out in Boss's memories, so I paid more attention to them. In retrospect, wanting to accompany Boss just to help stave off boredom waiting for his Jonin-sensei might have been a bad idea. There's really not much to do inside a classroom, and I don't think playing with my kunai would be a good idea since Iruka-sensei is still here. Ah wait, he just went out after giving Boss a parting wave. He probably has tons of stuff to do as an academy teacher, even if it's just the final administrative details before the break. Leaving Boss, me, Dead Fish, and Pink Hair alone in the room. So what are you doing here, Rekka-san? You're already on a team, right? I guess there's only so much fawning someone can do over a person with the emotional response of a dead fish, because Sakura finally got bored enough to start pestering the only unfamiliar person in the room. Odd, I can remember Boss being attracted to her, but I don't really feel anything about her one way or another. Curious. It won't be to be rude to one of Boss's teammates anyway, so I better say something. Please, Hikari is fine. I'm just here to see Naruto-kun over here meet his team and Jonin-sensei. Of course, I also had an inkling that he might want some company for the wait. I quickly clamped a hand over Boss's mouth before he can yell something, probably about me not telling him about this inkling, and starting a shouting match with Sakura. From Boss's memories of her matches with Ino, the experience can be unpleasant. What, wait, you mean you knew our Jonin-sensei was going to be late? And she goes off anyway, and Dead Fish shoots an annoyed glance in my direction. Sigh, maybe I should just ignore her like Dead Fish, at least she isn't annoying when she's fawning over him. Except to Sasuke-kun of course, but screw him, Boss and I share the same feelings in that regard. I shrugged exaggeratedly, noting out of the corner of my eye that Boss seems to have gotten past the put foot in mouth phase, so I lowered my hand. Hitaki Jonin's lateness is somewhat famous. Hell, even the list containing the new Genin teams had a reminder that he's going to be late next to his name. I wasn't sure if that's true though, since I've never met him personally, truth, though Boss might have, but I wanted to meet Naruto-kun's team anyway, so here I am. Okay, good. Looks like she's calmed down. Maybe I should sick him on Dead Fish to prevent a relapse? Never mind, too late, she's opening her mouth again. So what was that thing you did earlier to grab your ID card? I've never heard of any jutsu that can fetch something like that. Well, she isn't screeching at least, but sorry, that's a trade secret. It's not that useful though, the setup time is atrocious. I could only do it because I knew my card was going to be there. Ain't that the truth? Sadly, her reminder of my sleight of hand earlier seems to have prompted the interest of Dead Fish in the form of his dead fish stare. Sigh, at least Boss is enjoying my well-concealed discomfort though, if that smirk is any indication. Luckily for me, Hitaki popped his head through the doorway at that moment, so everyone's attention was diverted to him instead. He just swept his gaze at all of us lazily, before stating, my first impression of you guys is, there's more of you than I thought there'd be. Duh, meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. With that, he disappeared with a burst of smoke. I'm guessing a shunshin? His order is vague enough that it can be constituted as an invitation for me to join the rest of Team 7, so I just shrugged, summoned a shadow clone on the roof, and dispelled myself. He seemed to be in the middle of taking out something orange, from his equipment pouch when my clone was summoned. Damn, he's fast. Unlike my transportation technique, the shunshin is a speed technique rather than a pseudo-teleport technique like what I just did, and he still got here before me. He put it back after raising his right eyebrows slightly though. I pretended to ignore him in favor of watching the stairwell where Boss would be coming through though. It was a few minutes before Boss burst into the roof side by side with Dead Fish, exclaiming, "Take that." I'm first, Sasuke. I just rolled my eyes, and then pointed at myself while giving him a fond smile. I would say that Dead Fish looked slightly interested, miffed that I got here before them, but that would require a little more emotional display on his part than an actual dead fish, so I won't say that. A little while after that, Sakura arrived, having walked the whole way. Well then, let's introduce ourselves, you know, likes, dislikes, dreams for the future, stuff like that. He said as the rest of Team 7 sat down. Why don't you introduce yourself first? Boss asked. It's only polite to do so after all. Sakura added an affirmative, and even Dead Fish nodded almost imperceptibly. I just pretended to be interested about what he's going to say. Oh me? Well, my name is Hitaki Kakashi. I don't feel like telling you guys my likes and dislikes. I've never thought my future dreams, and I have many hobbies. Yep, definitely worth pretending to be interested in. Sakura was a bit more vocal in her disappointment though. So, all he told us was his name. Anyway, he continued, Silent Blonde, why don't you start? You'd think he'd get to know his team first, so I shot a glance at Boss, who got my message. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. He shouted towards the heavens, what I like are, ramen, especially the kind of Ichiraku's, training to become stronger, and Hikari-chan over here. I managed a small smile in his direction at this. What I dislike are the 3 minutes it takes to cook, instant. I helped him make the air quotes. Ramen, things that interfere in my training. He shot a brief glance at his stomach. And people who never look beyond the obvious. My hobbies are training, I'll say. He spent at least half his free time training from what I can remember, and I use the term free loosely. Sigh, too bad self-training can only get yourself so far. Haruka-sensei's attention caused his improvement to skyrocket in pace, even though sensei had to divide his attention among all the students in the class. Pranking people. The other half of his free time, and recently, hanging out with Hikari-chan. During which we did both of the former, of course, even if we only pranked each other. As for my dream, it is to surpass all the previous Hokage, so that everyone would have to acknowledge me. I noted that everyone's attention was forcibly drawn to Boss during this. I have a feeling Boss being acknowledged wouldn't be that difficult once he can finally make people pay attention to him. Alright, Incooperative Blonde, you're next. He must really want me to talk for some reason, so I shrugged a little. My name is Reka Hikari, my likes are training, ramen, and Naruto-kun over here. Boss smiled sheepishly at me at this, so I ruffled his hair for a bit. I have a great deal of dislikes, but none that I'm willing to share. Hitaki would probably be forced to report to the Hokage about some of those, and I don't want to give the old man any more paperwork. My hobbies are training and hanging out with Naruto-kun. As for my dreams for the future, I've never really thought about it. I mean, I've only existed for what, 3 days? I can't exactly plagiarize Boss's dreams since it's not mine, you know. I think he's deliberately waiting to speak so that everyone's attention could discomfort me a bit more, so I just pretended to check my nails. After about half a minute of this, he finally said, Alright, Broody, you're up. My name Uchiha Sasuke, Dead Fish started. There are a lot of things I dislike, and almost nothing I like. I can't really call it a dream, but I have an ambition. The resurrection of my clan, and to kill a certain man. The unnerving effect of a 12 or 13-year-old declaring that his primary motivation is to murder somebody was somewhat ruined by the fact that the entire last bit was delivered in a monotone. Seriously, at least put some effort in your speech about your lifelong ambition. Sakura started fawning over him at this though, and Boss edged slightly away from him. Okay, Pinky, you're last. All too true, in more ways than one, probably. My name Haruno Sakura, the thing. I mean the person I like is, Pinky tittered glancing at Dead Fish, and my dream for the future is. My hobby is, still looking at Dead Fish, but I guess it's a stare now, not a glance. My dislikes? She glanced between me and Boss for a bit. I don't have any particular dislikes. And this is the Kunoichi of the year. What kind of idiot designed the academy system anyway? Oh, right, the council pushed through those reforms to weigh the academic portion more in order to entice the less physically talented. That's to say, people who shouldn't be trying to become ninja, though in their minds it's probably encouraging more civilians into becoming ninja rather by allowing them to join up without being able past the minimum athletic requirements. Well, at least we get a whole bunch of paper shufflers this way. Too bad they rarely rise to a rank where they can help the old man out, since most of the stuff he deals with is classified. Alright, Hitaki began. Tomorrow Team 7 will start our duties as shinobi. A mission, if you will, a survival training again me. Is he pumping out some subtle killing intent just to unnerve us? Boss just cocked his head, as unnerved by the killing intent as I am. Considering I've faced some seriously concentrated doses of this stuff over ramen. Yeah. Going to have to try harder, Hitaki, so? You see, he drawled, of the 27 shinobi who graduated, only 9 will become genin. Pinky looked like she wanted to add something, but a slightly increased dose of killing intent disrupted her thoughts. Wonder if she even knows what this pressure is. So this is a test which has a higher than 60% failure rate. And if you fail, you'll be sent back to the academy. What was the point of the graduation exam then? Boss shouted. He probably doesn't need to worry though. I think I know what's the meaning behind the odd marks next to teams 7, 8, and 10 on the sheet with the genin team assignments now. That's just to select those who have the chance to become genin. We can't test everyone in the academy, you know. Anyway, Team 7, meet me at Training Ground 3 tomorrow at 6, don't be late. Ha ha, Hitaki, ha ha. Kakashi drawled, and I guess Hikari can come as an audience to your failure. He added as an afterthought, and I shrugged slightly. Piece of advice? Don't eat anything, you'll just throw it all up anyways. He said before vanishing in a gust of wind, leaving behind the leaves they used to cover his shunshin. Since it looks like dead fish and Pinky are still dazed, well, Pinky looks dazed at any rate. Dead fish still looks like a dead fish. I turned to Boss. Hey, I guess you'll just have to eat extra tonight then. Last one to eat Chiraku's has to wash the dishes for a week. With that, I jumped down into the street, Boss in hot pursuit. You know, Boss, when I said you'll have to eat extra, I didn't mean you should gorge yourself until you can barely move. I said as I helped Boss up after paying Tucci, who just chuckled and waved at us. Fortunately, Boss's freakishly fast digestive system kicked in. I don't remember it kicking in for anything but ramen before. But then Boss never gorges himself on anything but ramen either. And he was able to walk unsupported by the time we made it into his apartment. The ramen probably calmed Boss down completely though, since he seems to have fallen asleep immediately after crawling into bed, rather than staying awake due to nerves the entire night as I half expected. With nothing better to do, I decided to go buy some ingredients for a lunchbox for tomorrow. As it approached 6, my clone and I carefully carried Boss, asleep and wrapped in a cloned blanket, towards Training Ground 3, taking care not to jolt Boss awake on the way. A third clone brought up the rear, carrying eating utensils and the lunchbox I made last night. This was the strange sight that greeted Boss's impatient teammates, who probably got here half an hour earlier from sheer nerves. The poor, naive, fools. Sufficiently dumbstruck by the strange sight we made, the pair was speechless for almost a whole minute as my clones and I carefully set Boss and the lunchbox down. Hoping to forestall Pinky's natural instinct to be loud and abrasive when annoyed, which would wake Boss, making the entire act of carrying him here while he's asleep rather pointless. I quickly closed the distance between me and Boss's teammates, noting absently that my clones dispelled themselves. Hey, I chirped merrily while waving at them. How are you this fine morning? Okay, so rubbing the fact that I'm a morning person, technically an entire day person, since I'm up 24/7, and that Boss got to sleep in probably wasn't the smartest way not to antagonize a pair of people who clearly weren't morning people. But hey, better them angry at me than at Boss, and I'm close enough now that I can probably gag Pinky if she seems like she's going to make enough noise to wake Boss. HN, was Dead Fish's eloquent greeting, but he was never the main danger here anyway. Pinky was, and she looks like she's ready to blow up. How could I convince her to be quiet without gagging her? I'm sorry, that was probably a bit too loud, right? I said while pretending to be looking apologetically at Dead Fish, who grunted in a way that might possibly perhaps be interpreted to be almost approaching thankfully, if you were insane or something. Or a fangirl. And there we go. Terrified of distressing her Sasuke-kun, she stifled her imminent screech. Wonderful silence. Too bad the company leaves much to be desired. Finally working up enough courage to risk distressing Sasuke-kun, Pinky started in what seems to be her softest possible voice. Why's Naruto still asleep? Sensei would probably be here soon, it's already 6. I shrugged. Hitaki-John and only requested you to A. be present at Training Ground 3, B. not to be late, with an additional advice, which probably should have been taken under advisement, C. not to eat breakfast. Nowhere in that did he ever mention that we needed to be awake, or even alive, A bowl of ramen could fulfill those requirements as long I brought it here before 6. I mean, it's probably expected that you go into a survival exercise with the ability to, survive, but I could argue that the bowl of ramen was never alive in the first place, and so no matter what you do to it, it would technically survive. Moreover, I continued, given what happened yesterday, I seriously doubt that Hitaki Jonin is going to keep his own rule about not being late. Sadly, as much as I want to reciprocate Hitaki's lateness, boss would probably kill me if I intentionally disobeyed orders. More so if I cost him his genin graduation, but he's bound tighter by his code of honor than any physical chain anyway. Now if you'll excuse me, I added as I summoned another cloned blanket and curled up next to boss, pretending to go to sleep. The few hours passed with only the sounds of wildlife and boss's teammates pacing. Dead fish sure as heck isn't going to initiate conversation, and Pinky was probably mortified about possibly annoying Sasuke-kun with too loud speech. Ironic, considering. The enjoyable silence came to an abrupt end as boss started to wake, however, yawning sleepily before sitting up and noting his odd surroundings. He tried shaking me awake before recalling, as I instantly opened my eyes, that I don't actually need to sleep. Possibly still half asleep, he asked, "Why am I in training ground 3? "Because Hitaki Jonin requested that you be there at 6, of course." I responded, smirking mischievously. Boss gave me one of his deadpan stares, though the effect was somewhat weakened by his sleepiness showing through. "Alright. Let me rephrase that. Why was I sleeping in training ground 3? I shrugged, a difficult feat, considering I'm still lying on the ground. I figured Hitaki was going to be a late show, so I carried you here while still asleep. He never specified that you had to be awake after all, just not late." Sufficiently mollified, he stood up after noticing that he was fully dressed. Though what he would have done if he was still in his nightshirt, I don't know. Boss's two teammates watched the entire exchange between me and boss silently, probably because we were the only halfway interesting things going on around us right now. However, once it became clear that boss was fully functional, Pinky's hesitance in speaking seemed to be overridden by her, apparently instinctual, reaction to screech at boss. That or she decided it's sufficiently close to a reasonable hour that her voice wouldn't grate on her Sasuke-kun. I didn't hear what she yelled at boss or his likely submissive response because I was busy covering my ears with boss's blanket, so it's somewhat understandable that I missed Hitaki's arrival, only noticing when Team 7 synchronized, "You're late," managed to force its way past my makeshift earmuff. With that, I did a somersault to get up while simultaneously dispelling the two blankets. Hitaki just ignored their shouts while making his way to one of the 3 wooden posts of the training ground, setting an alarm clock on the middle one. "Looks like it's just past 10. Looks like he took his sweet time getting here." "Okay, it's set for noon," he started while taking out 2 bells. "Those who don't have a bell by noon gets no lunch, and will be tied to one of the posts while I eat one of my bento in front of them." Team 7 wilted under the threat of this cruel but not entirely unusual punishment. "There are only 2 bells, so at least one of you will be tied to a post, and anyone who fails to take a bell will be sent back to the academy. You can use whatever you'd like to try to take the bells from me, and I'm telling you now that you have no chance unless you come at me with the intent to kill." Hey, lucky for him, boss will probably never approach anyone with the intent to kill, considering boss had the skills to assassinate pretty much everyone in Konoha save for the Hokage and maybe the Jonin for a long time now. You don't avoid the Anbu in neon orange without having a ridiculous level of stealth, which is basically the only thing that matters in an assassination. And even the old man's survival would be debatable if boss ever went nuts, considering how easily he's knocked out by boss's Oiro no Jutsu. Before I forgot, being tied to a post also means you can't eat anything you brought with you either, so that means you can't just mooch off Hikari if you fail, Naruto. He added after noticing the lunchbox I brought, snapping me out of my thoughts. I nodded slightly in Hitaki's direction to show my acknowledgement. "Alright, begin," he shouted, and Team 7 dispersed to hide themselves. Noting I probably looked kind of odd for being the only one, other than Hitaki, of course, that didn't conceal myself, I walked towards a nearby bush and crouched down into it, disappearing completely. If you ignore the fact that everyone saw exactly where I went, since I didn't even bother to hide my movement. Boss probably realized that Hitaki isn't just going to walk right next to his hiding spot so that he can grab the bells, so he decided to walk out and announce his presence? You know boss, appearances count for a lot. Just because you know that it's mostly pointless to hide from a high-level Jonin when they saw how you moved to hide, doesn't mean they know that you knew that. Although it looks like Hitaki is dropping his guard because of it, whatever. The first of the 3 shinobi combat disciplines. Hitaki started, pulling the orange rectangle from yesterday. It looks like a book? From his equipment pouch, taijutsu. Boss, naturally confused, asked. What's with the book? I mean, it's orange, but even I would forsake orange if it meant it would impede my performance. I thought, while wearing a yellow shirt and orange skirt, in a profession that emphasizes stealth. Hitaki gave an offhand wave. I just wanted to know what happens next. Don't worry, it won't make a difference against you guys. Boss, naturally incensed at the insult, started a berserker charge at Hitaki. We'd have to work on that, if we end up having to fight in the open a lot, rather than just ending fights with the first sneak attack. After easily dodging or blocking boss's blows, Hitaki used his vastly superior speed to get behind boss, forming a tiger seal. I don't think any taijutsu techniques used hand seals, but given what I've seen so far, Hitaki could have been lying about the taijutsu thing. Hidden Leaf Ancient Taijutsu Supreme Technique, 1000 Years of Death. Never mind, though I bet boss is wishing that he took a fireball to the back instead at this point. At least that would only hurt his body, unlike the tremendous ass poke he just got hit by. It looks like being launched in the stream helped calm him down though, since he just sent a group of shadow clones to distract Hitaki, while another clone used the stream to get behind the Jonin. Too bad he ended up punching one of his clones due to a kawarimi, which reminds me, I should really practice so I can do the kawarimi seal Leslie. And now boss is beating the crap out of himself, though I don't know if he's just venting or if he actually thinks that Hitaki hanged into one of his clones. Well, looks like he's calmed down enough to dispel his clones now. And now he gets himself caught into a trap by trying to grab a bell Hitaki was clearly using as bait. Seriously boss, what the hell were you thinking there? I'm basically you and I still can't figure it out. I don't know if I can keep watching after this, so I brought my palms to face. Damn it boss, stop embarrassing us. The hands on my eyes didn't stop me from heaving several thunk sounds made by metal impacting wood though. I'm guessing one of the other members of Team 7 tried to attack Hitaki's lowered guard as he went to gloat at boss. On the bright side, that probably means they're too distracted to see boss getting caught by another copy of the exact same rope trap after he cut himself down, whereupon I face-palmed again. That sounds like Pinky's scream off in the distance. Wonder if I should go check on her? Never mind, got company. The third of the 3 shinobi combat disciplines, ninjutsu. Came Hitaki's voice behind me. I'm guessing that scream was due to a genjutsu then? Why are you testing me by the way? I mean, I don't really mind. The fight, probably fights. Now, if I guess that this is a cage bunshin is correct, moved away from where I can see, so I probably would have been twiddling my thumbs anyway. Good guess, and I'm only here because I thought you'd be bored without being able to see the rest of the survival exercise. Hitaki drawled as I stood up and turned to face him. Or possibly his clone, I guess. So what's it going to be then? I doubt it's going to be me trying to get a bell, since it'd probably dispel with you once I manage to get it off you anyway. Looks like the cage bunshin guess is correct, since the clone quirked his right eyebrow up slightly, rather than becoming dismissive. Ma, if you manage to dispel me, I suppose that can be considered you passing the test, since landing a clean hit would have roughly the same difficulty as taking one of my bells anyway. He said, with a dismissive wave of his hand. I shrugged. All right, I said, while simultaneously summoning a cage bunshin of a kunai to a position where it would have partial overlap with one of his thighs. Wouldn't do to accidentally land a lethal blow if the clone turned out to be the real Hitaki after all. Dispelling the clone. Or maybe I'm trapped in a genjutsu and that's what he wants me to think, but considering stabbing myself to break a genjutsu would be out of the question and that the academy genjutsu dispelling method never worked for me, I'm just going to hope I passed. Since I'm technically allowed to eat my bento now, I guess I might as well go do that. I wonder if that means boss could eat too by association? Hitaki probably thinks we're two completely different people, so that probably wouldn't work as an argument. Wait, does mean that he intended to send me back to the academy if I failed to land a hit? A genin going solo against a jonin? Silver hair's a prick. Boss wound up being the only one tied to one of the posts? I mean, I know he was freaking embarrassing out there, but none of the others got their hands on a bell either, so what gives? Eating the bento would probably be in bad taste then. Guess I'll just wait and see what happens. With that thought, I walked to join Team 7, silver hair nodding in acknowledgement in my direction before continuing a speech that was apparently in progress. Yep. All three of you should quit as shinobi. Ooh, harsh, still doesn't explain why boss was singled out and being tied up though. None of you understood the reason that the academy were divided into teams and given another exam after the basic graduation test. He continued, the reason that the exercise was set up deliberately to set you against each other. It was to see if you can set aside your personal interests and work together for the sake of the mission. Missions are completed by teams of shinobi. Naturally, superior individual ability is important to a ninja. He gave a slight nod in my direction at this. But what's more important is teamwork. He walked up to the memorial stone of heroes before continuing. Look at the names carved into this stone. These are the names of the greatest heroes of the village. They are all heroes who died on duty as a ninja. This is a memorial. My best friend's name is also carved here, a reminder of the fates that befall shinobi teams with fractured teamwork. There's probably a personal story behind that, but I have a feeling even telling us this much was painful for Kakashi. After a tense silence, everyone taking in the solemnity of the moment, he started speaking again. I'll give you guys one last chance, but I'll make it even harder for you to get the bells. Those of you who wish to continue may eat lunch, but don't give any to Naruto. This is his punishment for trying to eat by himself earlier. Well, that explains why boss is tied up. Probably partly my fault for packing the lunchbox in the first place. If anyone tries to feed him, they will fail immediately. I make the rules here, got it? He added a spike of killing intent to punctuate this statement, before vanishing with a burst of speed. Sensing that this was probably a part of the test, I glanced at boss, silently inquiring if he wants me to clue the rest of his team in. Boss shook his head no, probably deciding that if they needed their hand held just to go through the motions of teamwork, the team would fall apart later anyway. Nodding my understanding, I turned and walked a fair distance from the clearing before doubling back stealthily, hiding myself behind the foliage to observe. Looks like Dead Fish is offering boss his lunch. Either he's wised up to the test or he's actually getting into the team spirit. Either way, I think I'll call him something different from now on. The Uchiha is still on probation though, and there goes Pinky following his lead. 0 points, stop playing follow the leader, as expected. Kakashi rushes into the clearing with a burst of killing intent, and environmental genjutsu, if that storm cloud is any indication. Judging by the gradual transformation of their features from terrified to confused to elated, I'm guessing Kakashi passed them. And then they left boss tied to post and left. I guess I'll wait a bit to see if boss managed to figure out a way to escape being tied up on his own though. Boss, even you can't do a seal-less Kawarimi to escape. I know you can make seal-less cage bunshin, so why didn't you summon one and have him cut the ropes or Kawarimi with you? Yeah, the waiting thing didn't pan. I didn't think of it, alright? Boss mumbled. I just shook my head at him, exasperated. For future reference, next you're in a bind. Check to see if the Cage Bunshin no Jutsu can help in some way. It's basically the most versatile technique ever, and you're capable of performing it without needing your hands free. I'm guessing he's waiting for me to cut him down though, which is why he didn't summon a clone immediately. I just crossed my arms and deadpanned at him until he caught on, after which he sheepishly summoned a clone and had the Bunshin Kawarimi with him. As boss worked on demolishing my lunchbox and its contents, I absently wondered what we should do for the rest of the day. Throwing practice is probably pointless until we figure out a way to overcome Fuzzball's interference. Taijutsu practice, outside of moving through the academy katas, is probably just as moronic as it sounds when your only partners are clones that dispel in a single clean hit. I guess we could always practice the Kawarimi until we can do it seal-lessly though, although I'm uncertain of the actual benefits of that outside a split-second advantage compared to summoning a clone and then making the clone Kawarimi with ourselves. In fact, the Kawarimi is particularly useless for me, considering that I can seal-lessly take the place of one of my clones already, by dispelling myself. Outside raiding the old man's place for some jutsu scrolls, which isn't an option since I still need him in a good mood to approve of me running solo missions, the Kawarimi practice seems like our best bet. So I'm guessing Kawarimi practice? I asked his boss sent a clone to return the half-destroyed lunchbox back to his apartment. Boss just nodded up at me, confirming that he came to the same conclusion regarding how we're going to spend the rest of the day. So boss summoned up a bunch of clones to use as targets, distractions, and proceeded to attempt to kawari me while the clones were shifting around and trying to interfere his concentration by doing things like throwing rocks at him. I winced in sympathetic pain in response to a particularly painful hit. Fortunately, the bruise would probably have disappeared by the time he's finished practicing. While boss was working with his extremely physical jutsu practice, I decided to work on the range and control I have over the appearance of my cage bunchins. While I have nearly perfect control over their spawn points in a radius of about 5 meters or so, increasing distance or physical barriers tend to make accuracy and precision deteriorate rapidly, forming a soft cap at around 100 meters, at which point my control becomes so shoddy that the clone can appear from anywhere right next to me to 200 meters away. Sure, I can probably summon a clone to anywhere in the world, since I don't think I have an actual fixed range, per se, but the problem is, I would probably summon a clone to anywhere in the world, and for all I know I could be summoning it directly into a volcano or something. Yeah, I'm thinking mass summoning and dispelling is a horrible way to train my control over cage bunchin creation. I'm getting flooded with so much memories that I think I'm starting to suffer from sensory overload. I don't think my control improved any for all my efforts anyway. Oh well, at least boss seems to be getting things down pretty well from what I can see. He's not even getting hit by any of his clones' projectiles anymore. Trust me, considering how wild most of his throws are, avoiding the throws of a multitude of clones is almost impossible, since it's less a focus fire attack and more of a saturation bombing at that point. His kawarimi isn't quite seal-less yet, but one hand seal is few enough that he can kawarimi on reaction to attacks rather than having to predict one in advance to use it properly. Since the sun is almost down, we decided to call it a day. I barely registered the memories of his practice's clones as they dispelled. What's 20-ish memories compared to thousands anyway? I hope I managed to sort this mess in my mind out sooner rather than later though, I'm getting really disoriented. Leaning on boss slightly, we made our way to Ichiraku's. Whereupon a yame treated us to a free bowl each for passing the hidden genin exam, though boss went through 6 more bowls for good measure. Leaving a hefty, though nowhere near the amount we paid yesterday, amount of change on the table, we made our way back to boss's apartment. After stumbling on the stairwell twice, which is unbelievably clumsy of me, considering there aren't even 20 steps in total, I felt too drained to drag boss out of bed after he crawled inside almost immediately after entering his apartment, barely taking the time to change into his nightclothes first. Instead, I barely made it to the bed before deciding that I'm not going to bother doing anything tonight, absently summoning a clone blanket before going out like a light. Control, this is Squad D, we have a visual on the target, requesting permission to engage, over. Squad D, this is Mission Control, request denied. You are to shadow and observe the target only, wait for reinforcements, do not engage, I repeat, do not engage. Over. Quote. Standing orders says all other units are to move in on Squad D's position. What's your location, Squad D? Over. This is Squad D, current location is in Sector 13, coordinates 4756. Over. Squad A, Squad B, Squad C, this is Mission Control, double time it to Sector 13. Do not allow the target to escape. Over. Squad A acknowledges, over. We're already there, Squad B out. This is Squad C, we might be a while, we were in Sector 1, over. Squad D, this is Mission Control, status update on the target. Over. This is Squad D, target is holding position, still requesting permission to engage, over. This is Mission Control, request denied, again, do you see Squad B? Over. This is Squad D, we have a visual on Squad B, she just waved at us. Over. She returned the wave, Squad B out. This is Squad A, we are in position, requesting permission to engage. Over. Squad A, this is Mission Control, request denied, keep a lock on the target until Squad C gets there. Standing orders thinks waiting is boring, isn't 3 people enough? Over. Standing orders, this is Mission Control, stop being stupid, over. Mission Control, did you really need to use the radio to talk to standing orders? She's right next to you. I asked. Sigh, over. Screw my clones, screw all of them. This is mission control, of course it's necessary, Lady General. Over. I deadpanned at mission control. The three of us, mission control, standing orders, and I were seated around boss's table wearing matching headsets. Mission control, this is Squad D, target appears to be stirring, still requesting permission to engage, over. Squad A, Squad B, this is mission control, does that appear to be the case? Squad D, request denied, stop asking. Over. Hi, the target is stirring, Squad B out. This is Squad A, the target appears to be preparing to move out. Over. Squad C, this is mission control, what's your ETA to Sector 13? Over. This is Squad C to mission control, ETA 30 seconds. Over. This is Squad D, the target is bolting, we're in pursuit, over. Squad A following, over. Ditto, Squad B out. All squads, this is mission control, can you corner the target with just the three of you available? Over. Standing orders thinks this all could have been avoided if you just granted them permission to engage in the first place, mission control. Over. This is Squad C, the target appears to be moving in my direction, we and the other squads have him surrounded, requesting permission to engage. Over. All squads, this is mission control, engage the target at will. Over. Standing orders thinks this will go over badly, 4 is an unlucky number. Over. I find your lack of faith disturbing. I drawled, as I mimed a choking motion in standing orders' direction with one of my hands, whereupon she immediately started making choking sounds, and dispelled soon after. This is your commander speaking, do not fail me. Over. I finished in a mock evil tone. This is Squad A, we're moving to intercept, over. Man down, man down. Squad A got butchered when she moved to intercept the target. The damn cat has the reflexes of a ninja, Squad A never had a chance. We have apprehended the target however. Squad B out. All remaining squads, this is mission control, move the target to the established drop site, Squad A's sacrifice must not be wasted. Over. Mission control and I just sat there twiddling our thumbs while waiting for Tora to be delivered to the mission assignment desk. Hopefully this time he won't escape during transit. I had to ask boss to help out last time, since Tora was so feisty that none of my clones could hold him for long before dispelling. It sucks to feel like I'm as fragile as glass sometimes. This is Squad C reporting, we have returned Tora to the Fire Lady, Madam Shijimi, mission complete. Over. All remaining squads, this is mission control, congratulations, feel free to dispel. Over. With that, the 4 clones still left intact, mission control and the 3 remaining squads dispelled themselves. Boss will get the mission pay when he visits the old man to turn in his mission later. I let out a satisfied sigh. All in all, that went a lot better than it could have, even if my clones kept insisting on idiotic nicknames for the operation. Not feeling up to another mission today. The Tora mission pays a lot more than the other D ranks anyway, due to its unusual difficulty. I lay down on boss's bed after returning my headset to boss's equipment locker. After staring at the ceiling for a few moments, I closed my eyes and started to sort through the various clone memories I received. While my subconscious is perfectly capable of handling it without any input from me, it sometimes decides to shut the rest of my body down to focus on sorting a large number of memories, as I found to my chagrin when I blacked out the other day. Thus I usually set some time aside so that I get to decide when I'm going to be useless and unresponsive. Snapping myself out of my self-induced trance after a few minutes, I decided that I might as well go bother boss and see how his team is doing with his mission. One of my clones ended up coming across his team painting fences when they were searching for Tora. Carefully propping up an empty bucket on top of the bedroom door, had to train boss's situation awareness after all. Yep, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. I grabbed the lunchbox I prepared during the mission before heading out. I don't do much personally when trying to catch Tora. Mission control, one of my clones always names themselves that during the mission, tends to take care of the organizational details, so I'm really only needed to replace the clones that get popped for whatever reason. Hey boss, I started quietly as I landed lightly next to him, setting the lunchbox on the grass. How's the mission going? Looks like it's almost finished. Pinky and the Uchiha are working on the other side of the fence, though Pinky looks like she's paying more attention to the Uchiha than to the fence. Probably to his well-concealed chagrin, probably, it is well concealed after all. Kakashi is just sitting on a nearby chair while reading that orange book of his, pausing briefly to nod at me before turning back to his book. Slowly, Boss grumbled, "Kakashi-sensei won't let me use my shadow clones for any of the D ranks, apparently they're illegal or something. I somehow doubt that the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu is illegal, that is, not that Kakashi would forbid it. I've been using at least 2 clones for all my D ranks, and no one ever called me on it. Mainly to simulate working in a full genin team, although finishing the missions quicker is a nice bonus. Well, what he doesn't know won't hurt him." I winked at Boss while picking up a brush from the paint can beside him, pausing briefly to note that the paint is water-soluble. I wonder how much the typical income of a civilian is, if it's cost-effective to hire a team of ninja to paint fences. I mused out loud after a few minutes of painting in silence. I mean, they don't really have to pay the genin very much, but the Jonin sensei seem like they'd be shortchanged. Maybe being a Jonin sensei entitles them to extra pay, like being on an ongoing mission? Boss shrugged, narrowly avoiding dripping paint on himself in the process. Before starting, "It's probably a supply and demand kind of thing. Konoha has such a large population to draw from that we have tons of ninja. In comparison to that, the number of important missions is probably somewhat small, so the old man probably has to accept a lot of make work just to have enough missions to hand out to all the ninjas who request them. But consequently, even the cheaper missions end up being accepted. Even bad pay is better than no pay after all." Has Boss been hanging out with Iruka-sensei again? I ruffled his hair with my free hand before starting to paint again. Shortly after that, we finished painting the entire fence. Boss and I moved to the other side to help Boss's teammates after we finished the outside. Gathering up the used equipment, I left the brushes out to dry on a sheet of paper provided for that purpose. After washing the paint out, naturally, while Team 7 stowed the paint cans away in the client's equipment shed. Then, as a group, they started making their way to the Hokage Tower. I joined them after picking up the lunchbox from the grass. "So what brings you here so early today?" Kakashi asked me lazily, as we watched Boss bicker with Sasuke about who painted the most of the fence on the way to the tower. Well, Boss was bickering. The Uchiha just did that broody silence thing he always does. I shrugged before answering. "I caught sight of you guys during my mission, and after I finished I figured I might as well help out." Pinky must have been listening in between glaring at Boss for disturbing Sasuke-kun, and staring at the Uchiha like he's a piece of meat, since she started speaking. Thanks for helping us, by the way. Sorry that I forgot to do so earlier." Well, at least she has manners. Sometimes, I guess I'll stop referring to her as Pinky now, putting Haruno on probation like the Uchiha. "Are you going to join us again this afternoon?" That is, for the afternoon Team 7 training session, which usually takes place after an hour or so lunch break after the morning missions. Sometimes Boss and crew end up taking multiple missions if they finish the first one quickly. I nodded an affirmative, noting that we've made it to the entrance of the Hokage Tower, and watched as Team 7 made their way inside. While waiting for Boss to return from the assignment desk, I started juggling some of my kunai with my left hand. My right was still holding the lunchbox, absently adding some more to the mix once in a while. By the time I made it up to kunai number 7, Boss made it out, so we started heading towards the top of the Hokage monument for lunch. Boss gave a parting wave towards Haruno as I stowed my kunai away. As I looked down on the village, enjoying the hustle and bustle of activity, accompanied by Boss's eating noises, I marveled at how large the whole village is, only barely make out the wall surrounding Konoha opposite the cliff face. Being shaken out of my reveries by the cessation of the steady munch and crunch noises from Boss's direction, I turned to note that Boss finished eating. Either I was more out of it than I thought, or Boss eats really quickly, and is now staring at me. Tossing a brief smile in his direction, I created a clone to carry the lunchbox back to Boss's apartment, and the two of us set off for Training Ground 3. Apparently Kakashi reserved it for the exclusive use of Team 7, so that's where we typically went for afternoon training. The Uchiha actually made it here before us. Surprising, considering how quickly Boss finished his lunch. I guess the trip up and down the Hokage monument gave the Uchiha some extra time though. As I watched as Boss and the Uchiha start an impromptu sparring session, I just consider it part of their never-ending practice of one-upsmanship. As is their wont when left alone, I started feeling somewhat jealous, All my taijutsu knowledge outside of the basic katas has to be secondhand. Dispelling when giving or receiving a particularly hard hit has a rather crippling effect on hands-on learning of taijutsu. At least I get boss's memories of the spar next time he makes a clone though. Good thing they finished before Haruno showed up. Watching boss being knocked into the ground by an, admittedly graceful, axe kick to the shoulder would probably have set her off. They kept the spar to taijutsu only. Never know if Kakashi would decide to do some jutsu practice after all. Yeah right, so the Uchiha didn't want to deplete his reserves. Boss just went along with it because he likes to be fair. Boss could probably spam low-ranked jutsu all day long without making any appreciable dent in his reserves. Boss and I waved a greeting at Haruno, while the Uchiha gave a barely perceptible nod in her direction. Now all that's missing is Kakashi. Luckily he's starting to be less late than usual after the old man threatened to dock his pay since his team complained about his lateness so much. Less late than usual meaning upwards of an hour, rather than upwards of half a day. Might as well ask for the moon if you want more than that, I guess. I noted that boss isn't fawning over Haruno much, though Haruno is still invading the Uchiha's personal space like a pro. She probably is by now, considering how long she's been fangirling over him. After watching the Uchiha suffer for around half an hour, he must be really well practiced to show nothing of what he's feeling, since he didn't twitch so much as an eyebrow the entire time. You can almost feel the irritation coming off him in waves though. Boss and I noticed Kakashi strolling leisurely towards the training grounds, face buried in his book as usual. I plugged my ears as Team 7 synchronized to yell "You're late" in his direction. You'd think they'd just assume everyone knows that by now, rather than yelling for the entire fire country to hear. Kakashi just gave one of his usual excuses, this time about helping an old lady cross the street, before having to help yet another old lady on the opposite side that needed to cross to the side he just came from, and so on, before setting Team 7 to do 100 laps around the clearing as warm-up. It probably is, for boss. I joined in with a shrug after Haruno asked why I was just watching them run, easily keeping pace with boss and the Uchiha. This is partially due to my longer strides, since I'm about a full head taller than boss. It helps that I can't really get tired from exercise as long as my chakra reserves are sufficient though. I.e. as long as I don't have more than about a dozen clones running around. Though that reminds me, I never did figure out how my chakra reserves aren't being depleted, even though I can feel it constantly being, slightly, drained to sustain my existence. I'll think about it later. 95 laps later, boss and the Uchiha joined their sensei under a tree, having completed their 100 laps. Boss looks about the same as when he started, except he seems slightly excited to do more training. He's fidgeting like a squirrel on a sugar high. The Uchiha is panting slightly though. I did 5 more laps just to make an even 100 before joining boss under the shade with a slightly bored expression on my face, looking exactly the same as when I started. With nothing better to do, I watched Haruno finish the rest of her laps. I think she's on lap 70 right now. For God's sake girl, we weren't running that fast. After Haruno finally finished her laps, Kakashi made 3 shadow clones, assigning one to each to genin of Team 7, before telling them to dispel them by any means necessary. He went back to reading his book after this, lazy bastard. I wonder how long it would take boss and his team to figure out they're supposed to work together to dispel the clones. Because seriously, telling Haruno to take out a Jonin's clone? Talk about impossible orders. If this isn't another lesson on teamwork, I'll eat boss's goggles. As funny as watching Kakashi's clones humiliate boss's teammates without ever getting touched is, it's starting to get old after 15 minutes. You'd think boss's team would stop attempting frontal charges after their last 30 or so attempts ended with them getting a face full of ground, but you'd be wrong. The fireball jutsu by the Uchiha was particularly hilarious, since that meant his mouth was open when one of Kakashi's clones slipped around the fireball and tripped him. Boss just watched all this silently, clearly waiting for the rest of his team to wise up. Aren't you going to give them a hint at least? I asked Kakashi. At this rate it's going to be nightfall before they figure out they're supposed to work together. Kakashi lifted his nose from out of his book with a, "Huh? Did you say something?" before turning his attention back to it. I just shrugged. Looks like he's not going to say anything to them then. Oh well, might as well make a production out of this since I was bored anyway. Signaling my intentions to boss with my eyes, I started walking to him slowly. Naruto-kun? What's gotten you down in the dumps today? I asked with as much sweetness and fake confusion as possible, deliberately making my voice carry. Not to be outdone, boss made puppy dog eyes. It's because of this big meanie here, he said, pointing at his assigned clone. He said that he won't let me eat ramen anymore, but he's too strong for me. He added, managing to fake a sniffle. I pretended to look at the Kakashi clone carefully for a few moments, before starting. What do we do? He's too strong for me too. I mimed an exaggerated collapsing motion. It's okay Hikari-chan, boss said as he hugged me. I'm here for you, and so is ramen. But it's so unfair, I began, that only you must despair. But he's too strong for either of us alone, so what can we do? I hugged boss even tighter at this. It will be alright, Hikari-chan, boss declared as he patted my head. If we can't do it alone, then we will work together, using the power of teamwork, friendship, and ramen too. I pretended to be knocked out of my daze by this, and started standing up, holding one of boss's hands. Yes, I declared, with the power of teamwork, friendship, and the good that is ramen, we will defeat this foe. I pointed exaggeratedly at the Kakashi clone with my free hand, who just watched, bemused. While the other two clones stared, clearly amused. Prepare yourself, fiend, boss began, while clone stood impassive, for your punishment shall be massive. Boss started pointing at the Kakashi clone with his free hand. By the power of teamwork, friendship, and the divine power of ramen, we smite you. We shouted, while I created a shuriken to nick the Kakashi in the legs, making sure to dispel it before the smoke from the dispelling clone vanished. Yay, goodness has triumphed, I declared. Celebrate, for evil has failed, boss shouted. With the power of teamwork, friendship, and ramen too, we have overcame this foe. Boss and I cheered. While the other two Kakashi clones gave polite applause, boss and I started bowing at an imaginary audience. And also at the physically present audience, but the imaginary audience outnumbered them. I think I heard Haruno and the Uchiha say, idiots, under their breath though. Pots, meet kettle. The show seems to have done its job, since Haruno and the Uchiha joined up with boss to discuss how to dispel the last two clones. While they were doing that, I returned to the shade under the tree. Kakashi flashed me a brief expression of amusement as I did so. After that, it took only a few moments for Team 7 to dispel the remaining clones. Using a plan that involved shadow clones, the fireball jutsu, a log, ninja wire, another log, an orange sweater clone and hanged, yet another log, and lastly, a cow, hanged. Kakashi dismissed Team 7 after that, but boss and I stayed behind in the training ground to practice a bit more. While boss worked on his kawarimi a bit more, focusing on timing it at the last possible moment, he's already got it down to being seal-less. I practiced hitting move targets, in the form of boss's clones, with my kunai and shuriken. The clones practiced dodging thrown weapons, in the form of my kunai and shuriken. As the sun started setting, boss and I decided to call it a day. Boss dispelled any leftover clones while I dispelled myself after creating a clone. Causing all my thrown kunai and shuriken to dispel, no point leaving dangerous pointy metal stuff just lying around everywhere. We then made our way to Ichiraku's, where boss and I had ramen. Boss had 5 bowls while one ate 1. After making our way back to boss's apartment, boss went into the restroom to shower and brush his teeth, while I meditated on the sofa for the bit, organizing the new wave of memories I received earlier. Boss kawaramied with a chair before the bucket I propped up earlier could hit him as he entered the bedroom, glaring at me for a bit. I smiled back as innocently as I could, before kawariming with the chair again and crawling into bed, falling asleep immediately. Ah, Hikari, just the genin I wanted to see. The old man began as I entered the mission assignment room to receive today's mission. Team 8 accepted a courier mission to Tanzaku-gai yesterday. A C rank to deliver a shipment of, he coughed slightly, reading material today. Unfortunately, one of their genin was injured in a training accident shortly afterwards, so I've been looking for someone to take the place of Shino Aburame. Would you mind doing that for me? Always so courteous and grandfatherly, you could almost forget that he's the military dictator of the strongest of the elemental countries. Of course, Hokage-sama. I answered politely. I wonder if this means Team 7 is going to get a C rank soon as well? I can't imagine the old man giving me one without giving boss one too. Much appreciated, he responded after puffing on his pipe. Please meet with Team 8 at the southwestern gate by noon. I saluted before exiting the room with a, "Hi, Hokage-sama." It's only barely 9 right now, plenty of time to pack thoroughly, write a note for boss, and prepare a lunchbox. With that plan in mind, I headed back to boss's apartment to get my equipment ready. Let's see, tent kit, check, extra kunai and shuriken, check, explosive notes, too dangerous. Boss could probably regenerate an arm if he ever accidentally blows himself up. Myself, on the other hand, don't have that option. Even just losing a finger would still dispel me completely. Rope, check, good old rope. Never go on an adventure without at least 50 feet of the stuff. Ninja wire, check. First aid kit, check. I can't really use it, but my teammates probably could. Last, but most definitely not least, a can of orange paint. Never know when you might need more orange in your life after all. After checking that the backpack is packed properly, I picked it up before creating a cage bunchin and dispelling myself, catching the backpack before it can fall to the ground. After setting the original backpack on boss's table, I set the backpack that appeared with my clone down near the door. Have I mentioned that I love the cage bunchin no jutsu? Because I do, I really do. After I finished making a lunchbox for boss when he comes back to the apartment, I started writing a note for him. Hey boss, I'm going on a mission outside the village for a bit, probably for about a day or two. The backpack on the table is packed, although you might want to add some changes of clothes and explosive notes in there. See you soon. After slipping the note under the lunchbox, which I placed on the table next to the backpack, I picked up the backpack from next to the door, absently noting it's about 11:15. Clocks, what a marvelous invention, before exiting boss's apartment and locking the door behind me. Seeing how I had plenty of time, I walked at a leisurely pace towards the southeastern gate. Looks like I'm the first one here, not surprising, considering it's still half an hour until the appointed meeting time. Ah wait, there comes someone now. Guess I'm not the only one who decided to get here early. I waved hello at Hinata, who waved hesitantly back. She's dressed with the same cream-colored hooded jacket and navy blue pants as in boss's memories. The only real difference between her appearance then and now is that she's wearing her Hite 8 around her neck like I am. Anyo, Reka-san? Hokage-sama told us you'd be joining us for the mission today? Either the old man is a bloody psychic or Team 8 went to get a status update on the mission after I left the assignment desk. I'm going to believe the former, if only because old man Hokage is awesome enough to be a psychic on top of an awesome ninja. Please, Hikari is fine, we're going to be working together after all. I responded. She isn't fidgeting as much as she usually does in boss's memories, wonder why? I didn't even hear her stutter earlier. Arigato Hikari-san. I know it must have been rather short notice, Kiba and Shino got a little rougher than usual during sparring yesterday. Guess it's too much to expect someone from a noble clan to drop the honorifics when talking to a virtual stranger. My condolences to your teammate. I started with a slight incline of my head. Is the Kiba coming up now? It was a rhetorical question, naturally, kind of difficult to mistake one of the so very few people who ever hung out with boss swaggering up to us. Like Hinata, he looks almost identical to boss's memories, with a gray hooded coat and dark gray pants, complete with Akamaru perched lazily on his head, as is his wont when not peeking out from Kiba's jacket. Likewise, the only real difference in his appearance is that he's wearing his Hite 8 around his forehead like boss. Akamaru gave a few quick barks in Hinata's direction as a greeting before focusing his attention on me, craning his head slightly. Kiba just gave a gruff, hello, to Hinata, who gave a small wave in return, before turning his attention to me at a bark from Akamaru. I guess we know who's the brains in that relationship now. Hey, how come you don't smell like anything, huh? It's like you're a damn ghost or something. Akamaru barked his agreement of that statement, where Hinata just looked horrified at his rudeness, probably scared he'll scare me away or something. Who says I'm not? I responded with a small smirk, noting that Hinata calmed down after seeing I'm not offended. But in all seriousness, I continued as I noticed that Kiba looked like he was about to make his displeasure about that answer known in a loud and vocal manner. Hiding one's scent is one of the vital skills of a shinobi, where sound and sight disappear as soon as one leaves the area. Scent could allow a skilled tracker to hunt you days after you've left the area. I finished with a small nod in Akamaru's direction, and Kiba calmed down, clearly mollified by my subtle compliment. In actuality, my lack of scent is most likely because I'm a clone, but they don't need to know that. So you're Hikari, right? The Hokage said that you'd be taking Shino's place for this mission. I've accidentally gone a bit overboard in sparring yesterday. Didn't expect an Aburame to be so good at taijutsu, so I went all out. He said with a laugh. Akamaru just barked down at him, slightly disapproving. I nodded. I hope your teammate's recovering well? I don't really care either way, but boss would, so I figured I might as well say his bit for him. Kiba answered with a strong shake of his head. Yeah, he's already let out of the hospital and everything. Hinata-chan here's medicinal cream worked wonders. Hinata gave a cute blush at this. He's really only kept from the mission because the doctors told him to take it easy for a few days. Sucks to be him. It's Team 8's first C rank after all. We continued making small talk, with Akamaru joining in occasionally with his barks, until Yuhi Jonin made her way to the gates just as the village bell towers started striking 12. That's some punctuality she has. Too bad boss doesn't have a Jonin sensei like her. Legendary skills as a shinobi aside, an actually present instructor is far better than an absent one, however legendary. As Kiba and Akamaru barked a greeting at her, with Hinata joining in with a soft, hello, I made a polite bow in her direction. All right team, she began crisply, after acknowledging our greeting with a small nod. We'll be making our way to Tanzaku-gai with a shipment of books for one of the local bookstores. She held up a storage scroll containing said books for emphasis. After delivering the books, we will stay in one of the local inns before returning to Konoha in the morning. Any questions? As we all shook our heads no in response, she continued, since everyone's ready, let's move out. With that, we set off towards Tanzaku-gai at a sprint. When people think of hiring ninja for missions, transporting a large volume of goods is probably the last thing that comes to mind. Assassination, sure. Retrieval of lost items, sure. Painting fences, probably only those who live in a ninja village will feel comfortable with requesting that mission, but, sure, protection of a caravan carrying a large amount of goods, certainly. But actually moving a bunch of items ourselves? That probably clashes with their image of shinobi as always traveling light. We're not samurai after all. Thus it probably comes as a surprise that not only do we accept missions that involve transporting large amounts of goods, we actually offer comparable rates to more civilian moving companies. This is especially surprising since ninja deliveries tend to be far quicker and far more reliable as well. Not only does a team of ninja move far faster than any civilian transport company, but also only the most desperate or stupid group of bandits or highwaymen would attempt to waylay a ninja squad. Of course, this is all thanks to the easy availability, to ninjas, of storage scrolls. We're never seen carrying a large amount of goods because they're always sealed inside of easy-to-carry scrolls. Civilians, being unable to provide the necessary chakra to seal and unseal items from storage scrolls almost never think of them, so demand for ninja transportation of goods tend to be fairly low, hence the low price of delivery missions. We've been moving at a pretty rapid pace for almost a few hours now. While it's expected for Yuhi Jonin to be able to keep up this pace, this probably isn't even a warm-up for her. It's somewhat surprising that her genin team is able to do so as well. I guess it's somewhat expected that Kiba, being an Inuzuka with their focus on power, speed, and stamina for their taijutsu, would take to running like a fish to water, but Hinata being able to keep pace just as well, if not better than him, is rather unexpected. Seriously, why wasn't she the kunoichi of the year? Having her on the team with boss rather than Haruno would have been great. You'd think being this athletic would make her easily push Haruno out of the top kunoichi position, but apparently you'd be wrong. What the heck is up with our academy ranking system? It was with this thought in my mind that I received the memories of boss enacting a seat of his pants style plan against an A- ranked missing nin. Boss at his best, he always seems to think faster when the adrenaline is flowing, causing me to stumble briefly before recovering. This garnered me concerned looks in my direction from the rest of the team, but I quickly reassured them all with a brief, I'm okay. Kakashi trapped, Haruno useless. Not that I really needed the memories to tell me that. With boss attempting an almost suicidal plan with the Uchiha's help, I wonder how this would turn out. You'd think it's rather blasé of me to seem so unconcerned about boss's possible death, but aside from looking east with concern there's really nothing else I can do. Although, if I dispelled myself without having another clone out, maybe my chakra would go back to boss. I don't know if that would even work that way. I really need to go read over the Forbidden Scroll again when we get back to Konoha. Hopefully boss will make it out of this alright. So, I began, as if making small talk. Who do you think would win in a fight between Hitaki, Sharingan, Kakashi and Zabuza? Demon of the Hidden Mist, Momochi? Considering we've spent the last few hours running in silence, the puzzled looks I got in my direction isn't unexpected. What brought this on? Kurenai asked after a brief silence, being the only one not short on breath due to running. Other than me that is, but then again, do I even need to breathe? Sure, I'm making breathing sounds to keep up appearances, but I don't really know if I need to. The clone that dispelled yesterday while making choking noises was just playing along. I couldn't actually choke clones just by miming a choking motion in their direction. I shrugged before answering, just a thought that popped into my head. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, even if completely misleading. Yuhi Jonan just shrugged like she's used to stuff like this, which she probably is. She works with Kakashi after all, while her team watched bemusedly. While Zabuza is one of the stronger missing nins out there, she started afterwards. Kakashi is one of the strongest Jonin in the village, a rank, borderline S. Really all he's missing is the drive to excel, otherwise he'd be easily S ranked by now. He's really just coasting along on his past excellence as a young genius. Seems like boss would be fine then, assuming that his plan worked and he got Kakashi out successfully. Which it probably did, since I'd imagine that the Kage Bunshin, like most other ninjutsu, ends with the caster's death, and I'm still here. The rest of the trip was made in silence except for the huffing noises of the other two genin. We slowed down slightly to accommodate their depleting stamina, but not by much. Team 8 is surprisingly athletic, since I think Yuhi has a focus on genjutsu. But then again, keeping oneself fit is the basics of a shinobi, and her training regimen probably reflects that. I carefully kept my anxiety from showing on my face during that time. No point in getting the rest of the team worried if it wouldn't do anything for boss after all. Damn it boss, couldn't you at least dispel a clone to tell me you're alright? Sigh, he's probably just too excited from a battle of high-level ninja to think of minor details like this, or so I hope. Ah, are you the delivery team for Jiraiya-sama's books? The store clerk, male, 5'6", middle-aged, and interesting, probably not a threat, though I won't declare anyone not a threat until I decapitated them, sealed the remains in a scroll, burnt the scroll to ashes, and moved to another continent. It's not paranoia if they're really out to get you after all. And this is definitely not a reaction from watching all those zombie movies last night. Asked as we entered the bookstore, please just place them on the display table over here. It's fine to leave the scroll under the books after you unseal them. He pointed at the extremely large table about 5 meters from the entrance. Why would one of the legendary Sannin be writing books? Actually, maybe he owns this bookstore? That would explain why the store knows to request Ninja to deliver the books rather than using our civilian counterparts. After Yuhi unsealed the books with a flare of chakra, giving a quickly hidden look of distaste in the process, I noticed that they're orange like the book Kakashi's always reading, though the cover seems slightly different. Maybe it's another book in the same series? Curious, I moved closer to the table, noting that the book is authored by Jiraiya in the process. Guess he did write the books after all. Though I guess that doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't own the bookstore, and picked one up, noting that Yuhi was giving me a horrified stare as I did so. Slightly more interested, I started leafing through the book. Apparently it's called Icha Icha Paradise. Odd name. Oh, well this explains the Hokage's cough before saying, reading material. And here I thought it was just the pipe smoke getting to him, as well as Yuhi's horrified stare. I just stood there, somewhat bemused, as the clerk forced the book into my hands after I set it down, saying that Jiraiya-sama would never forgive me if I made a pretty lady like you pay for his work of art. Great, apparently boss's sensei is a pervert, and flaunting it in public, and so is one of the legendary Sannin. And now Yuhi probably thinks I'm a pervert too, though hopefully her team doesn't know what's in the contents of the book I just got. Judging by their slightly curious glances at it as I put it away into my equipment pouch, they don't. I think I should go die now, preferably after figuring out how to stop my memories from returning to boss along with my chakra. That is how I'm getting the memories from the clones of Boss and I write. I resolved to burn the book at the first opportunity I get. Boss must never know of this. As Yuhi ordered us 3 rooms for the night at a nearby inn, Kiba and Yuhi have their own rooms. I'm sharing with Hinata, shooting me suspicious glances as she did so. Damn it, ma'am, I am not a pervert. Kiba gave an exaggerated cheer, as Akamaru barked his agreement. Yes. I don't have to share bed space with Shino and his bugs. Why did I have to share a tent with him during our survival exercise anyway? I'd giggle at him to make him uncomfortable for what he just revealed to an outsider of the team. But I have enough on my plate making Yuhi think I'm a pervert like the damned Hitaki without adding more to it. Anyo, Hinata began, it's because you always forget to pack your own tent, Kiba. You should really thank Shino for always sharing. Kiba growled at the reminder of his forgetfulness. But, he has bugs under his skin. Why can't I share with you, Hinata? You're nice. Kiba almost yelled. I moved to smack him in the back of the head. Do I really need to tell you why it's inappropriate, complete with finger-quoting action, for you to sleep with a girl on a camping trip? I said, letting off a slight wave of killing intent. For some reason, and I don't think it's the killing intent, Yuhi frowned at me even more at this. Great, she probably thinks I'm doing this because I'm a lesbian or something. I want to go off into a corner and cry now. Kiba looks appropriately chastened. Anyo, Hinata started, blushing fiercely. Kiba doesn't really mean anything by that. Let's just go to our rooms. Ah, the peacemaker, I'm liking her a lot more than Haruno already, as a friend. As a friend. Yuhi, if you're reading my mind right now, I like Hinata as a friend only, alright? I only realized belatedly that if she could read my mind she'd also know that I'm not a raging pervert. Sigh, god damn it, even my own thoughts are embarrassing me. As Hinata and I made our way to our room, I carefully kept my distance. No need to add more fuel to the fire of Hikari Rekka is a raging pervert, after all. Luckily, Hinata either didn't notice my intentional distancing or is too polite to call me on it. She is a goddess, my rock in this cruel world intent on humiliating me as much as possible. I breathed a sigh of relief as we closed the door to our room. At least I'm alone with Hinata right now. I can't even imagine how awkward sharing a room with Yuhi would be right now. Looks like there's a small kitchen attached to the room. I have a source of fire now, good. Next time I really need to pack something to make fire with. I only realized that I should really pack some matches or something when I realized I'm not with Team 7. The Uchiha is always good for setting stuff on fire, after all. Opening the fridge, to pretend that I'm not in the kitchen just to burn a book, I noted that it's actually well stocked with enough fruits, vegetables, eggs, and poultry for a decent meal. And is that a small bag of rice I see next to the rice cooker? Guess dinner is self-served then. Good thing I had lots of practice from cooking for Boss. Hey Hinata, I'm going to make some food, that fine with you? I asked as I poked my head out of the door separating the kitchen from the room proper. Ah, arigato Hikari-san. Would you like me to help? She asked as she stood up. She was meditating as I searched through the kitchens. Well damn. Now she's going to see me burn the book. I was planning to hide by using my cooking to mask the burning smell of paper. Would be rather rude to refuse though. Sure, if you'll wash the vegetables and the chicken in the fridge that would be great. I said as I started taking out the book, shedding a tear for the small bit of orange that would soon disappear from this cruel world. If she sees it, I guess. As she started washing the ingredients like I asked, I turned on one of the burners on the stove and set the book on fire, frowning as I watched the orange cover change from the bright, vivid color to the dead, gray color of ashes. She gave me a puzzled expression, but was too polite to ask anything, so I said, I don't want to talk about it. Accepting this, she turned back to washing the rest of the ingredients while I got out the frying pan, a container of oil, and some condiments. Deciding that I wasn't up to anything more complicated than fried rice today, I dumped the entirety of the small bag of rice into the pot inside the rice cooker before washing the rice and leaving the rice cooker to do its thing. As I got a bowl out to hold the eggs from the refrigerator, I absently noted that Hinata went back into the main room, probably to meditate again, so that she wouldn't disturb me as I worked. Giving a small shrug, I poured a bit of oil into the frying pan I left on the fire earlier. It's not non-stick, so don't sue me over safety issues, before dumping all the chopped vegetables and the chicken bits into the pan. Hinata chopped them all up for me before she left. She works fast. Has she ever cooked before? For a few minutes I just stood there, enjoying the merry crackling of oil meeting the water in the vegetables, absently stirring the vegetables in the pan once in a while so that I don't burn anything. I added some salt, pepper, and other spices as I stirred, so that they end up distributed evenly. I was broken out of the comfortable daze I wasn't aware I settled in by the ding sound of the rice cooker, informing me that the rice was done. Deciding not to risk burning the vegetables as I messed with the rice, I created a clone to continue handling the cooking vegetables while I worked on the rice. I need a really big bowl for what I'm about to do next. Ah, there's one. Grabbing the bowl, one unceremoniously dumped the entire contents of the pot of rice into the bowl, before breaking a few eggs to add their whites and yolks into the mix, absently tossing the shells into the trash bin. 3 cheers for perfect aim. I took the wooden spatula from my clone for what I'm about to do next. She frowned as I told her to use a pair of chopsticks to stir the vegetables in the meantime. I don't blame her. The wok is rather large after all. Using a chopstick means she actually has to lower her hand until it feels like it's inside the wok. Fortunately for my clone, I only needed the spatula to evenly distribute the eggs among the rice, so I gave it back to her after a few moments. Unfortunately for her, I started adding the rice to the wok immediately afterwards, so she had to race to make sure all the rice and vegetables mixed evenly, shooting me a glare as she did so. Well, tough, at least you aren't using chopsticks. Since I'm not really needed anymore, I decided to go see what Hinata's doing. Hey, I started, watching Hinata jolt out of her trance. How's it going? Anyo, I'm fine. Since you're outside, does that mean the food is done? She replied after getting her bearings again. Nah, I started. I got a cage bunchin working the wok right now. The fried rice will be done in about another quarter hour or thereabouts, I think. Oh, she began. I wasn't aware any genin other than Naruto-kun had the reserves for cage bunchin. I shrugged before part of the sentence caught up to me. Oh? Naruto-kun was it? I wasn't aware you two were so intimate with each other. I teased. She blushed red as a tomato at what she unwittingly revealed, before stuttering, ah. It teased you ust th hat, and falling into an embarrassed silence. While my normal inclination would be to ask, what's that? Seeing how she, however unknowingly, helped out with my own embarrassment earlier, I decided not to push it. Although I guess this does explain why she was stuttering in most of Boss's memories. I wonder if the correct thing to do here would be to expose her to Boss more, so she gets more used to Boss's presence, or to keep her away from Boss, so that she doesn't relapse. I'd ask Boss, but this is kind of personal, and I don't imagine Boss would like me revealing this kind of stuff to outsiders. Rather odd, imagining Boss as an outsider. Looks like the fried rice is done, I declared, as I got the memories from my dispelled clone. I think I made a bit too much, actually. Could you go ask Yuhi Jonin if she wants some? I'll go ask Kiba. With that, Hinata bolted out the door, clearly glad to get away from the sight of her embarrassment. Chuckling slightly, I started making my way to Kiba's room, closing the door to our room as I did so. Hey, I semi-yelled, we are indoors after all, as I knocked on Kiba's door. I've made a bit too much fried rice. Would you like to have some? Oh thank God. Kiba did yell. I almost panicked when I realized we're supposed to cook for ourselves. I can't cook to save my life. Akamaru barked his agreement from Kiba's jacket at this. I rolled my eyes a bit before answering. You should really learn to cook for yourself, you know. If you'll just give me a bowl from your kitchen, I'll fill it up for you. And as an afterthought, I added, actually, if you give me 2, I'll get some for Akamaru as well. Can dogs even eat fried rice? That wasn't exactly a course covered in the academy. I guess an Inuzuka would know better than I do though, and I imagine that Akamaru would know best. You're just like my sister, you know? Always saying I should do this, or I should do that. He huffed, though not actually annoyed, as he went to get the bowls. After a few moments, he returned with 2 of them. I guess dogs can eat fried rice after all. Assuming that Inuzuka hounds aren't substantially different from regular dogs, that is. Which I guess they might be, considering that they're apparently smart enough to understand human speech, and talk in their fashion. I quickly returned with 2 filled bowls, and told the ever-grateful Akamaru and his human that they can repay me by sending up whatever they have in the fridge tomorrow morning, so I have the ingredients to make breakfast, before returning to my room. Anyo, Hinata started as I opened the door. Kurenai-sensei traded half of the fish she made for the bowl of fried rice. She told me to give you her compliments, it smelled really nice. I just nodded, acknowledging the information, before sitting across from her. We quickly finished the meal in companionable silence, which was only broken by me insisting that she eat the fish. Not like I really need a well-balanced diet or anything, after all. Afterwards we brushed our teeth and showered. I showered first, since she insisted, and I humored her, and got into our beds, me to sort out the various new memories I got today, and she to sleep. Bored, 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 bored. So bloody bored. Sigh, if I knew being stuck pretending to sleep was going to be so boring, I would have brought some books, or at least clones thereof, from the Konoha library. Who knew being able to process information faster than real-time inside my mind space was going to have a downside? I must have rewatched the zombie movies at least 12 times already. I started replaying the movies inside my mind after I sorted through the memories I got from Boss's clones. Remembering walking with a grouchy, hungover, old man wasn't exactly on my to-do list when I started on this mission. Sigh, at least it's almost morning now, if the increasing brightness of the room is any indication. Hey, Kiba's voice rang out as a loud knocking sound came from the door. The Kiba man has come with a delivery for the ladies. Please tell me he did not just yell that out loud for the entire inn to hear, I thought as I quickly got out of my bed, glancing at Hinata to see that she's still asleep. Though she seems to be stirring slightly. Better quiet him down quickly. I gave him a quick rap on the head. Akamaru was in his jacket, after I opened the door. Quiet down, I hissed, some of us are trying to sleep right now, this is an inn, it's like 6 in the morning. That means you should be quiet, got it? I hit him on the head again since it looked like he was about to yell an affirmative. Quieter, I whispered with emphasis. Sorry about that, he started, thankfully not loud enough to wake the dead, but me and Akamaru are used to waking up early for our morning jogs, ain't that right Akamaru? He said as he patted Akamaru on the head, who gave a soft bark as affirmation. By the way, why are you in pajamas right now? He added as an afterthought. I gave him my best deadpan stare before starting, maybe because I was still in bed when you started that inferno racket of yours? I created a clone wearing pajamas after I got out of the showers last night. And then, just for the heck of it, I decided to see if I can dispel a clone without dispelling everything she appeared with. So I stripped the pajamas off the clone before dispelling her. Turns out, I could in fact keep only part of a clone. Also, being forcibly stripped of your clothes by someone that looks just like you is kind of jarring. Have to remember to just ask next time. Shaking my head clear of the memory, I pointed at a box by Kiba's feet before asking, so, is that the delivery? Incidentally, never use the words Kiba man, ladies, and delivery in the same sentence ever again. In fact, it would be great if you never said the phrase, Kiba man, ever, after this. Kiba nodded an affirmative at my question, before prompting Akamaru to give me puppy dog eyes from inside his jacket. But Hikari-chan, how else would the world learn of the greatness that is the Kiba Meister? Are you really going to deny the ladies of the world the pure awesomeness that is the Kiba Man Delivery Company? He said while puffing out his chest, simultaneously reinforcing his awesomeness, and bringing Akamaru's puppy dog eyes closer to my face. I gave the pair an exasperated smile before shrugging. Whatever, I'll see what I can do with the stuff you brought me. Hinata or I will come get you after she wakes up and I finish making breakfast, which will probably be in an hour or so. So I'll see you then. With that, I leaned down to grab the box of foodstuffs and made my way to the kitchen. Though not without waving goodbye to Akamaru and shutting the door behind me. Let's see, miso, scallions, nori, seaweed, tofu, some more fruits, some more eggs, some beef. Kind of surprising that Akamaru or Kiba didn't just eat this raw. A package of rice, naturally, milk, and a carton of flour? Wonder why the contents of our fridges are so different. Leaving the beef aside, that can be Akamaru's breakfast. I can probably make some miso soup and scallion pancakes with what I have. Isn't it convenient how the inn provides me exactly what I need without anything left over? Well, better get cooking I guess. After carefully closing the door leading to the attached kitchen, so that I don't wake Hinata with the smoke and noise from my cooking, I created a clone to get started on the miso soup while I worked on the pancake batter. Feels like there's about enough flour for 4 pancakes in the bag. Guess that makes dividing up the food really easy if I invite Yuhi too. Shrugging, I dumped the flour into the bowl one used to mix the rice and eggs yesterday, and added about a cup of water into the mix. After mixing the proto dough until it became smooth, I took it out from the bowl and started kneading the dough on the chopping board. I coated the board with some of the still dry flour left in the bowl. Double over, press down, double over, press down. Looks like it's smooth and elastic enough now. After coating the ball of dough with a small amount of the oil I found yesterday, I put it back into the bowl, and then covered bowl with a wet cloth. Knife. I need a knife. There. Okay. Chopping implement obtained. Where's the scallions? Ah, here we go. After chopping the scallions into bits of about half a centimeter in length, I paused to note that the miso soup is almost done, if the pleasant aroma is any indication. As my clone lidded the pot the soup's in, turning the fire to the lowest setting simultaneously, I absently noted that Hinata is awake and brushing her teeth. No need to keep the door closed anymore, I guess, so I left my clone in the kitchen to watch over the soup and dough and moved into the main room. Hey, I waved at Hinata as she exited the restroom and sat down across from me at the table. She returned the greeting with a still sleepy, hello, in my direction. I'm making breakfast right now. Does miso soup and pancakes sound good to you? She nodded. That sounds nice, Hikari-san. Arigato. Is there anything I can do to help? I shrugged slightly. If you'd like, you can wash some of the fruits Kiba brought up. I think there's some in the fridge too. Fruit with breakfast? Blasphemy. Ramen is the one true food. Though in all seriousness, fruits probably would be alright for dessert. With that, Hinata got up to start washing the fruit, pausing slightly before she entered the kitchen and turning her head at me. I mouthed, "Cage bunchin" at her, guessing that she was probably surprised by my clone. Since she went in to wash the fruits after that, I'm thinking that was indeed the case. The dough probably sat for long enough by now, so I dispelled myself to take my clone's place. After turning off the fire under the miso soup, I turned to the bowl of dough. I split the ball of dough into 4 pieces of roughly equal size before taking one of the pieces and rolling it into a vaguely rectangular shape on an oiled baking sheet. That done, I spread about 1/4 of the chopped scallions and some salt over the rectangular dough sheet, before rolling it up, coiling it, and rolling it into a circular pancake. I prepared the other 3 pieces the same way before fishing out a smaller frying pan than the wok I used yesterday. The semi-spherical shape won't work too well for this. After heating it over medium-high fire for a bit, I poured a bit of oil into the pan, waiting for the oil to shimmer slightly before gently easing one of the pancakes into the pan. Looks like Hinata's done washing the fruits now, and is carrying them out in a plate. Well, the pancakes shouldn't take more than 4 minutes each, so I guess I'll go get the rest of Team 8 and tell them that breakfast is ready. With that, I left a clone in the kitchen to handle the pancakes and walked into the main room. Hey Hinata, I started as I walked by her. Would you mind if I invited Yuhi, Jonin and Kiba over for breakfast? I kind of promised Kiba I'd make breakfast for him, and it feels rude not to invite your sensei if we're having breakfast together. Anyo, that sounds fine, Hikari-san, Hinata started. Are you getting them while wearing your pajamas though? Oh, right, I'm still in my pajamas, aren't I? With a quick, thanks for reminding me, I went into the restroom to change. I just made a clone wearing the yellow shirt and orange skirt I usually wore and took her place. With that done, I walked out from our room. Okay, calm down. Hopefully the lack of Hinata's screaming sounds during the night convinced Yuhi that I'm not corrupting her innocent protege. I'd much rather that Yuhi understand that I'm not a damned pervert. Thank you very much, but I'll take anything I can get right now. Why didn't I send a clone, like the one I sent to get Kiba, or better yet, Hinata, to do this? Because Hinata was still in her pajamas, that's why. Shut up brain, not helping. Sigh, might as well get this over with, I thought as I moved to knock on the door. Yes? Came Yuhi's voice from inside the room, crisp and clear, somehow managing to convey mild curiosity and a subtle threat against wasting her time simultaneously. Gah, why did I think this was a good idea again? The last thing I need is for her to be even more annoyed at me. If you wouldn't mind, would you like to eat breakfast with me and the rest of Team 8? I made miso soup and pancakes, I said quietly, while chanting, please don't kill me, in the back of my mind. I gave a small eep when the door suddenly opened, and I found myself face to face with terrifying red eyes. Thankfully, the eyes immediately softened upon noticing how scared I was, and Yuhi started in a concerned voice, are you okay? Anything wrong? Okay, Looks like she isn't about to flay me alive for being a pervert. I should try to calm down. Considering neither, I'm not a bloody pervert. Nor, nothing's wrong, except the minor fact that I'm terrified that you're going to visit all sorts of horrors on me with your genjutsu for being a pervert. Is going to go over well. I decided to go with a toned-down version of the latter. It's just, you're not about to use your genjutsu skills to send me into a coma, are you? Why would I want to put you in a coma? Came the confused reply. Huh, am I missing something here? Last I checked you were very annoyed at me, if all the frowns I was getting last night is any indication, unless they weren't meant for me. I guess they could have been directed towards Kiba, who was right next to me, after his sleeping with Hinata comment, but that still doesn't explain the glares before that. Whatever, don't look a gift horse in the mouth and all that. Ah, ha, ha, I started sheepishly, rubbing the back of my neck as I did so. Sorry, I think all the horror movies I've been watching recently has gotten to me. But since you're not going to genjutsu me into next year, would you like to have breakfast with us? Sure, I'll be down in a few minutes. Kurenai replied, likely bemused by my antics, before closing the door behind her to, presumably, get ready. Breathing out a sigh of relief, I headed down the stairs to meet up with the others. Ooh, someone, I'm guessing Hinata, set up the table for the four of us. There's a slightly steaming bowl of miso next to an empty plate and glass in each of the cardinal directions. A plate of fruit was in the center of the table. Kurenai Jonin says she'll be down in a few minutes, I said with a small wave to Hinata, Akamaru, and Kiba. Hinata's in the western chair. Akamaru's on Kiba's head, and Kiba's seated opposite Hinata. So I guess I might as well start serving the pancakes. With that, I turned into the kitchen, absently dispelling the clone inside. So then I was like, you shall not pass, and Akamaru was like, rawr, and then when Naruto tried to run through us while holding the paint cans, Akamaru bit him on the leg, tripping him. Was my accompaniment as I divided up the pancakes and milk, and gave a bowl containing the beef to Akamaru. I think I vaguely recall this from Boss's memories actually. Didn't Boss end up spilling all the paint over a passing Anbu? And then, just as the paint can was about to spill everything on him, some random Anbu tripped up over Naruto's body, and the orange paint spilled all over the Anbu instead. I have no idea how the Anbu missed Naruto, since the only way he could get more visible is by holding up a sign or something, but whatever. Akamaru, Kiba, and I shared a laugh over this. Well, Akamaru barked, but you know what I mean. Anyo, I hope everyone was alright? Hinata asked after we settled down. Kiba shrugged a bit before replying, probably, I mean Naruto wasn't really that hurt, and I think I smelled paint from some of the Anbu for weeks after that, so the Anbu was probably fine, unless the paint smell was from another one of Naruto's pranks or something. I don't know about the Anbu that tripped over Boss, but the paint smell? That was definitely one of Boss's pranks. Glad to see you're all getting along, Kurenai said as she entered, taking the northern chair, opposite mine. We'll head back to Konoha after the meal, and if we make it back in time, we'll do some training in Training Ground 14. With that, we started on our breakfast with a quick, itadakimasu. As I worked on finishing my pancake, I was ripping pieces off of it with my chopsticks before dipping the pieces in the miso soup and eating them. I asked Kurenai a question, excuse me, Kurenai Jonin? Would it be fine if I joined your team for the training session after we get back to Konoha? The people I usually train with are out of town for the time being. At least, that's what I'm assuming, since Boss is supposed to be guarding Tazuna until his bridge is finished, and something like that should take far more than 2 days. That's fine, assuming none of you have any complaints? Kurenai asked as she looked at her genin. Hinata just shook her head no, though Kiba was more vocal in his approval, that sounds great. I've been wanting to see what you can do anyways Hikari, not many people can keep up with me and Akamaru in running you know. Akamaru barked his agreement at this. The rest of the meal passed with us making small talk at each other. After draining our glasses of the milk, each of us took a fruit from the plate in the center. Kiba took 2, presumably ones for Akamaru, I took an orange for obvious reasons. As Kiba and Kurenai left for their rooms, I went to pick up my backpack before settling in to watch Hinata pack her stuff. Less than 2 minutes later, we were both ready to go, so we went to the entrance of the inn to wait for the rest of Team 8. We headed out from the town of Tanzaku quarters soon afterwards, setting course back to Konoha at the same pace as yesterday. Luckily, this time I wasn't interrupted in the middle of it by the memories of Boss being in a fight for his life. Although I do wish that boss had sent me an update by now, seriously, you'd think that he'd at least use a clone for something during this time, but apparently not. Sigh, I'll have to remember to ask the old man for permission to read up on the Cage Bunshin no Jutsu tomorrow, since it looks like boss won't remember to send me updates when he's on missions unless I remind him somehow. It took around 5 hours to get to Tanzaku-gai yesterday, and we set out at 8, so looks like we'll be home just after noon. You know, I half expected an A- ranked missing nin to jump out of the bushes or something on our way here. I stated as we approached the village gates, it just seems like the kind of thing that should happen on our first C-rank mission. The fact that boss got attacked by Zabuza Momochi might have something to do with this belief, but I had a feeling that something like that is supposed to happen regardless. If a missing nin really did show up, me and Akamaru would have kicked his butt, Kiba barked. Ain't that right, Akamaru? Akamaru barked up from beside Kiba at this statement. Anyo, I'm not sure that would have been the best thing to do, Kiba. Shouldn't we let Sensei handle it if a Jonin-level enemy shinobi appeared? Hinata added, a bit hesitantly. Don't sell yourself short, Hinata. You and the rest of Team 8 did well enough against me during the hidden exam after all. Kurenai began, as we slowed down before entering the gates. While I wouldn't necessarily expect that you take down an A- ranked enemy on your first try, I have faith that you guys can hold your own. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to give my mission report to the Hokage. Meet me at training ground 14 at 2, that should give you guys plenty of time for a quick lunch break. Make sure to get Shino if he's ready to begin training again. With that, she left for the Hokage Tower in a shunshin. Alright, time to tell mom and sis I'm back from my first C-rank mission. Kiba shouted, pumping his fists into the sky, and started for the Inuzuka compound with Akamaru following. Anyo, I need to tell father I have returned as well. I will see you at the training ground, Hikari-san, Hinata said with a polite bow before walking slowly towards the Hyuga clan compound. I don't really need to eat anything, so I suppose I might as well head to training ground 14 now. I dispelled the backpack I'm wearing before heading towards the training ground at a brisk run. Let's see, there's no real need for throwing practice, I've got the henge and kawarimi down pat. The latter is mostly thanks to boss's memories of the training he did with it. I don't feel like putting myself into a coma with more Cage Bunshin practice, once was enough, thank you very much, so. I guess I might as well try to get in some taijutsu practice? Even if I can't use the art to its fullest capacity, there's no point just being beaten around like a mannequin. I just dispel on the first good hit they land. But it's the thought that counts, if anyone ever forces me into close quarters combat after all. With that thought, I started moving through the academy katas, taking care to adjust for my greater height in comparison to boss as I did so. If I moved just like boss, would I have a feeling I'd be horribly off balance due to our different centers of gravity, not to mention it would be a waste of my greater reach. Hey, Kiba shouted as he approached the training ground, flanked by his two teammates. Akamaru is perched on his head lazily, and gave me a bark when I turned to wave at them. Anyo, I hope we're not interrupting anything? Hinata asked since I stopped moving through my katas once Kiba greeted me. I do not believe we are interrupting Hikari Reka. Why? Because she did not exhibit any signs of irritability or surprise as she turned to greet us. This was Shino, who pushed up his glasses to punctuate his statement. Kind of weird to be looking him straight in the eye, since boss is about a full head shorter than Shino, and boss's memories reflect that. Shino is wearing the typical Aburame outfit of a sea green jacket with upturned collar, sunglasses, and dark shinobi pants. Like with his teammates, the only real difference in his appearance from boss's memories is that he's wearing his Hite 8 over his forehead. Forehead protectors being worn to protect foreheads? What kind of crazy ideas will they think up next? It's fine, I started. I was getting bored practicing my katas alone anyway. So it looks like Shino is recovered enough for training? I finished with a nod in Shino's direction. Shino gave a curt nod before answering, it is my understanding that I should continue with my shinobi training. Why? Because failing to exercise after a sprain prolongs the recovery time unnecessarily, though I will likely refrain from sparring until I'm fully recovered. We all gave small nods at this. Basic first aid and medical knowledge is a required lesson at the academy after all. Even Akamaru pitched in with a small bark from atop Kiba. At least you got to rest for a bit, Kiba started. Whenever I got injured during clan training, mom or sis just tells me to walk it off. Though only when it isn't that serious. I still remember the time that sis had to rush me to the hospital after I fell the wrong way off a tree. He finished with a small smile at the memory. I gave a small shrug, before asking, does one of you have the time? I've been out here for a while now and lost track of it. Anyo, it was almost 1:45 when we went to see Shino, so I think Kurenai-sensei will be here in about 10 minutes. Hinata answered, after closing her eyes for a bit to recall the memory. Plenty of time for a quick spar then. Kiba shouted, Komon Hikari, I'll even go easy on you. Akamaru won't join in for this fight. He finished as he started dragging me towards a circular clearing. The clearing is deliberately kept free of grass, being composed of brown, compact earth, probably for this exact purpose. Alright, I laughed slightly, before creating a clone and sending her outside the ring. I hope you don't mind me using a clone to observe, do you? I don't really get many chances to review my taijutsu. It's not exactly my chosen field after all. Well, actually the clones just in case I get dispelled during the spar. Hopefully that won't come up though. Sure. Kiba gave a dismissive wave as Hinata and Shino settled in next to my clone to observe. Akamaru leapt into my clone's lap, and she absently scratched the back of his ears while looking at us. So let's get started then. With that, Kiba started with a headlong charge. Fast, but too straightforward. With a quick half step to the right, I easily avoided his initial lunge before starting to push his hand to left, hoping to disrupt his balance before using his own momentum to trip him up. Whoa, that's some scary reflexes. He managed to bring his other hand up in a blow that would have gotten me clear in the face if I didn't start bending over like I was playing limbo or something. Fortunately, he disrupted his own balance sufficiently with that stunt that I had the time to grab both of his hands and tugged. Barely managing to slide out of the way before he fell on me, I turned to see that he sprawled on all fours. Oh, right, Inuzuka, was all I had time to think before he started rushing at me again, since I just get nailed by his reflexes if I tried dodging to the left or right. Stepping backwards doesn't help, he'd just catch up. I waited for him so that he's just close enough to be unable to jump to catch me before jumping as high as I can, straight up. He tried, of course, but due to the lowered stance of his taijutsu, he needs a significant horizontal buffer to achieve vertical coverage. I.e., he needs a longer lead run before jumping. He's just going to go for me again while I'm stuck in midair like this, so I suppose I'm going to need to use a shadow clone. With that thought, I quickly created another clone directly below me as Kiba started to leap towards me. After kawariming with the clone, I turned and started running parallel to Kiba's leap as he dispelled my clone with a punch to the gut. Ouch! Since his momentum was stalled from dispelling my clone, I was able to take his back before he was able to land, so I got him into a chokehold before I mimed holding a kunai up to his neck. Yield? Yeah, he started somewhat petulantly. What was that thing you did with turning into smoke after I punched you? I shrugged. It was another cage bunshin. I created one on the ground as you leapt up at me and kawaramied with her. Unfortunately, I get all the memories as a cage bunshin dispels. You hit like a ton of bricks, you know that? He looked a little mollified by this statement. Ah man, he started. As we walked towards the rest of Team 8, Akamaru gave a content bark in his direction, still being scratched by my clone. If I knew you could create solid clones, I would have had Akamaru help. The rest of his team, Akamaru included, sweat dropped at this. What did you think my clone was? I asked, nodding at my still-seated clone. The rest of Team 8 stood up by now, since Kurenai is probably coming soon. Kiba shrugged. I don't know, a regular academy clone? I just thought you were weird or something. I just shook my head at this, though Hinata and Akamaru brought their hand, or paw, to their faces. I believe we should move to the center of the training ground. Why? Because it is almost 2 and Kurenai-sensei will be showing up momentarily. Shino stated, seemingly unruffled by Kiba's cabanas. With that, we made our way to wait for Kurenai. I dispelled my clone after Akamaru got out from her lap to follow us. Nice to see you're all here, Kurenai stated, crisp as ever, as she walked up to us. To begin with, let's start with 50 laps around the training ground. Training ground 14 is about twice as large as training ground 3, so 50 laps here is about the same as 100 laps there. With that, we set off with variations of, "Hi, Kurenai-sensei." After we finished with our warm-up, it didn't really take that long. Everyone on this team is fast, but then again, Boss is on a team with Haruno, so my standards might be skewed. Kurenai started asking me some general question about my abilities, sufficiently chakra reserves for multiple Kage Bunshin, adequate kunai and shuriken handling skills, exceptionally small ninjutsu repertoire in comparison to my chakra reserves, no knowledge of genjutsu beyond what's taught in the academy, same for taijutsu, though I have some first-hand observations of high-level shinobi going at it. Probably to see what kind of training would fit well with the current state of her team. You know, from what Kakashi told me about you, I thought you would have had a rather more extensive knowledge of the shinobi arts. Kurenai started after the questioning is done. Great, the Hitaki isn't just a pervert, he's also a gossip. Why did boss have to end up with a legendary ninja rather than someone like Kurenai? Because non-legendary shinobi, however excellent as disciplinarians or teachers, are clearly not good enough for the last Uchiha. Shut up brain, still not helping. We already know the council probably screwed the academy system 6 ways to Sunday. I shrugged before answering, you don't really need extensive knowledge of the shinobi arts for fieldwork, encyclopedic knowledge is nice and all. But I've known academy students, boss, that can take down the Hokage himself without using any jutsu other than the Academy 3. The genin of Team 8 perked up at this, clearly curious as to who these mystery academy students were. I've been trying to get more information beyond what the academy taught of course, but certain complications, my lack of existence until recently, meant that I couldn't really work on it, so I've just made do with what I knew. Kurenai nodded, seemingly satisfied by my response, though she did quirk an eyebrow at the academy students beating the old man bit. Well, I've been meaning to go over genjutsu today with Team 8, though I was worried that it might be too basic for you, but this makes things easier. Since the academy leaves more advanced training on genjutsu to the Jonin sensei, this would probably be your first experience of a high-level illusion technique. She finished as she turned to the rest of Team 8. If you'd like, you may form whatever hand seal that helps you concentrate and control your chakra before I start the technique. Hinata obligingly made a ram seal. Kiba just scoffed. Shino was Shino, think the Uchiha, except less of a jerk about it. She started after moving quickly through 5 hand seals. This genjutsu will immobilize your moments completely, so take your time and try to disrupt your chakra flows enough to break free of the technique. She finished as I felt a wave of foreign chakra through my body. This was probably intentionally done to signal the start of the technique. I doubt that a genjutsu mistress would be so obvious in the shaping of her illusions against enemies. Curious, I can see tree that's supposed to immobilize me coiling itself around me, but… Excuse me Kurenai-janin? I started asking, raising one of my hands like I'm in a classroom. Am I supposed to be seeing 2 different views of the world? I can see myself being trapped by a tree, but I can also see that I'm completely free. I punctuated this by walking in a small circle. The tree followed me around as I did this, eerie, but not restricting my movements at all. You're caught by the technique but you can still move? Kurenai asked absently as she stared at me like a puzzle to be solved. Can you describe the 2 different views you're seeing for me? I shrugged. Well, in one of the views, everything looks exactly the way it's supposed to, at least, it looks pretty much identical to how everything looked before you started the technique. I paused for a bit before she motioned for me to continue. But in the other view, I'm trapped by a gigantic tree that seemingly appeared from nowhere and wrapped itself around me. Kurenai kept pondering this as I saw Hinata break out of her illusion with a soft kai. What you say you're seeing resembles what some of the other Jonin say their Kage Bunshin remember after I put them in one of my illusions. Well, that explains that, she began after a bit of pondering. I've never even heard of something like this happening to an original though. Would you mind it if I asked you to meet up with me sometimes when I'm in the village to investigate this? Something like this sounds like it would be really useful in combating enemy genjutsu. Sure, I answered with a slight shrug, noting that Shino has managed to free himself from the tree-binding illusion as well, and is now chatting quietly with Hinata. I'm probably going to be quite free after tomorrow, so does the day after that sound okay? That sounds fine. Do you know where the dango shop, Dangoya, is? She continued after a brief nod from me. Meet me there at noon. With that, she turned to Kiba, the only one still trapped inside of an illusion. Akamaru either managed to break out, or was never trapped in one, since he's currently running circles around an immobilized Kiba. After breaking her genjutsu with a slight sigh, Kurenai ordered me, Hinata, and Shino to go through some flexibility and endurance exercises, while tutoring Kiba on the basics of genjutsu theory, trying to work out what he's doing wrong. She occasionally moved to correct one of us if we're doing an exercise slightly wrong, with an awareness that borders on the uncanny, but she always moved back to Kiba shortly afterwards. Apparently genjutsu isn't Kiba's forte, because it wasn't until it's almost dark that he finally managed to break free of Kurenai's illusions. Noting how dark it's gotten, Kurenai dismissed all of us before disappearing in a shunshin. "Ah man," Kiba stretched loudly. "I thought that was never going to be over, at least we'll be free for the next 2 days though, seeing how it's the weekend. I could really use a break after all of that genjutsu practice. I believe you would do well to repudiate that opinion. Why? Because I'm certain that your mom and sis, he doesn't actually do the finger quotes, but you can feel that they're there, will have supplementary exercises for you once they learn of your genjutsu deficiencies." Kiba looked cowed at this, before rallying with a, "What they don't know won't hurt me, right? Anyo, it's getting late, and I must report back to my father. Please excuse me." With that, Hinata left after bowing to the three of us. "I must depart as well. I believe I shall be seeing you 3 days from now at the latest." With that, Shino left for the Aburame compound. Hey, Kiba began, "I really don't want to face sis right now, so do you want to get some grub together?" I quirked an eyebrow at this, absently petting Akamaru as I did so. Akamaru jumped into my hands sometime during the goodbyes. After a moment, I shook my head slightly and began, "Sorry, I really need to go back to my apartment right now. Need to check that it hasn't blown up or something since I was last there." This is actually a valid concern. Boss might seriously have left the stove or sink running. It wouldn't be the first time he had to return to a room partly destroyed by fire or water. With that, I let Akamaru down and started for boss's apartment. Well, it's not destroyed, at least. I thought as I walked into the shower. I do wish that boss didn't end up using the can of orange paint to set a trap for me as I walked in though, that's just mean. Ha, who am I kidding, that's hilarious. I quickly created a clone before taking its place, carefully washing all of the water-soluble paint down the drain after they splattered onto the floor of the shower upon my disappearance. After cleaning the rest of the paint from the door and floor, I settled into boss's bed to organize the memories of the few clones I created today, musing absently that this is the first time I'm spending the night without someone close by.
That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, share and do comments.